I was trying to schedule the live to come on in a few minutes, but it just wanted to start anyway. It does that sometimes. I don't know why. And then green screen, and of course that's not going to be here. All right, I have to do something else real quick. Hold on. Back. Really? It's still not there? Uh, um, that's annoying. I'm trying to do TikTok and YouTube at the same time. I'm using my other phone that I have YouTube on, but it doesn't have my background picture that I want to use. Um, I just put it on my phone, but it's not like the YouTube app isn't recognizing that it's in my photos because I guess just because I just put it there. Can I wait? Is there another way I can? Aha! Got it. There we go. That works. Let me make this taller. A couple other people are here now. I'm gonna also get on TikTok here. I'm gonna try to stream while I'm doing some work as well, like kind of like what I was doing yesterday. Um, we're gonna see how this works. Oh, so there's already that. Let's see here. Let me start TikTok. So we're gonna have TikTok conversations, and hopefully you'll be able to hear, and you guys can have conversations in the chat with other people on the YouTube and hopefully hear TikTok. But you won't be able to see the TikTok chat or anything like that, right? So, yeah. I don't know where I'm going to put my phone though because I only have one tripod. Alright, so we are now live on both. I don't know if I should be saying that or not. I don't know where I'm going to put my phone. What's up, Coops? We got a handful of people in here. What's up, Vegan Bully? Hopefully we can have some good conversations today. Yesterday was pretty good. I did a TikTok stream for a few hours and had a bunch of conversations. Some pretty good conversations, and a couple of people that came on and like just wanted debates, and that's not really what I'm going for. So they never really go anywhere. It's just people like trying to come up with excuses. It's kind of annoying. Let's So Vegan Bully, I'm also on streaming on YouTube right now. I'm trying to figure out where to put my phone because I only have one tripod. guess I can just put it over here. I'm not going to be able to. Gonna be looking back and forth. I'm also doing some work while I'm streaming, so other people can come up on TikTok and help with some conversations. What do you think about vegans who eat bivalves? I talked about this yesterday. Were you the one that asked me this yesterday, or was that somebody else? Somebody else asked me that. Personally, I don't consume anything that has a nervous system because, like, let's say that we in the future find out that more animals are sentient, it would probably be these animals, right? There's no necessity for consuming any of those animals. So I never ate them before. Why would I eat them now? If you're a vegan, probably look into that more and make your own educated decisions on that. But yeah, I don't consume those animals. I don't think other people should consume those animals, but that's more like a vegan discussion, right? That's not really like, that's not the big issue with other people and how they consume animals. Um, so, yeah, does that make sense? What's up, Ben? What's up, Fur? I'm on TikTok trying to have some conversations. There's a lot of people coming and going. Yesterday we got 70,000 likes on TikTok. That was awesome. We got 30 new subscribers on TikTok, or followers on TikTok. That was very cool. It was like over a 4-hour stream. Not a ton of views, only like, I think it was less than 2,000 views. But there's a person named Death here. Do you want to come up and talk? There's a bunch of reasons why I'm vegan, but I want to talk about why you aren't vegan. You can request up. Or maybe you already did, sorry. It's hard for me to see when people request, because it's only like a little tiny dot. You're over 18? Oh, you're really quiet. Can you, maybe it's just my phone. Let me turn my volume up. Make sure you speak up, and can you guys let me know if you can hear the other people
Is it better
talking?
now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm above the age of 18.
Okay.
Everything like that. So, why are you vegan?
Well, I want to talk about why you aren't vegan. Can you, like, do you know what veganism is? Have you ever thought about being vegan before?
I thought about being vegan, but I don't like plants that much.
You don't like plants? You know there's like tens of thousands of different edible plants. I'm sure that you haven't eaten all the plants and decided that you don't like all of them, right?
Well, I'm not gonna lie to you. I have a very bad texture issue in certain plants. My body does not want. They do not agree with. And I also, when I was just going with different foods that weren't specifically meat, my body started rapidly declining in iron and a whole bunch of other stuff. So me being vegan is a very bad combination.
So how long were you doing that, and like how frequently were you having your blood tested? Where you're like, you know what I mean? You're making these claims like your iron was falling, your iron levels were falling. Like, can you explain that a little bit more?
I was doing this for like, well, again, like I said, I'm a fucking picky eater. I'm a very picky eater. And I was doing this for like 6 years of my life.
Yeah, 6 years. And how frequently were you getting your blood tested?
I was on a medication that needed my blood tested every month, and they thought that it was the medication at first that was doing this, so they took me off of it, and it wasn't the medication. And then I started changing my diet, and you know, things started
Yeah.
gradually increasing.
So there's some people that I've heard talk about like iron deficiency before. Like, do you drink coffee?
No, coffee's gross.
Yeah, because sometimes if you drink coffee and you're eating things that have iron and you're drinking coffee, it can. I'm pretty sure it's coffee and iron that kind of blocks. Um, it blocks your absorption, and then also, Ben, I tried to bring you up, but it didn't let me. Also, here, let me try that. Also, you need to eat vitamin C to absorb iron better. So, if you're eating things that have iron, also eat some other things that have vitamin C, and it can help your iron absorption. But you can also just take an iron supplement. So, like, how do you feel about animals though? If you can get your iron, you can get everything, all your nutrition, everything you need from eating plants. Like, let's just say that you can 100%. You can be healthy. You can thrive. How do you feel about humans exploiting animals?
Well, I have a bit of a biased opinion on it because I grew up on a farm.
Right. So you've
I
you've
would.
had relationships with animals, right? You agree that they can be happy, they can be sad, like they're individuals, they're having their own experiences, right?
Yes, they they are individuals. They do have their own experience. When I was growing up on the farm, I used to hug my cows and tell them I love them, but I'm still gonna eat them.
So how do you
Cause,
eat somebody that you love?
well, that's not a somebody. That's a something.
You
Can
think
let's say a cow, can it talk to you and me like I'm talking to you right now?
obviously they don't speak English, but you can read their body language. Most animals communicate mainly with their body language, so you should be able to tell when another animal is happy or sad, or if they don't like what's happening, or if they're like they do.
But they still cannot speak to me and speak to you like I am speaking to you when you are speaking to
There's a
me.
lot of humans that don't speak English that you can't communicate with. Does that mean it's okay to exploit them?
I can learn to communicate with them because there's a big
Then
difference.
you
They're
can
still
learn to you
speaking,
can learn to communicate with animals, all animals to a certain extent.
but they cannot speak to me like I am speaking to you. The only thing I don't agree with um I don't know how TikTok wants me to say this word, unaliving animals is when it is in a non-humane way. I don't agree like with
There's
the
no humane way to take the life of an animal.
yes there is.
It's an oxymoron. No,
Quick
it
and
is
easy.
not. Could that happen
No
to
pain.
you? Would that be humane if somebody did that to you? When they have another option, we clearly have other options. Why? How would that ever be humane? It's not
So
like torture an animal and then
that people
unalive them, and then or maybe just make it quick, like lights out. There's a third option, which is just leaving them alone and letting them live their life.
do you think that people who physically like me who has texture issues that
Texture
if
issue.
I eat it it's not going down. Yeah, so do you think we should just starve?
No, you should eat plants. There, like I said, there's tens of
No.
thousands of
When you have
types of
texture
plants.
issues, that's not how that works.
That is ridiculous. That is completely
no,
ridiculous.
it's actually not.
You're
I
not
just
being
want to say
genuine.
one thing. There are many people within the vegan movement that have texture issues, that have autism, that are very picky eaters and still manage to do it.
Okay, well, that's them. That's not everybody. So do you just expect the people who cannot do it just to starve?
You're not
If
being
we're
genuine.
so worried about animals, why are we not worried about other human beings?
There's tens of thousands of different plants. They have different textures. You cannot say that you can't eat any of those plants. That's ridiculous. That's completely
Okay.
ridiculous.
I have a lettuce and I don't agree. Fruit, vegetables, a whole bunch of shit.
If you can't
And
eat
none of
any
it
of those
agrees.
things, you're probably going to die anyway, because eating just animals is extremely unhealthy, and you're going to be missing a lot of nutrients that you need. There's vegan food that you can get that, like, you literally just have to drink it, so you don't even have to eat anything. You can get everything you need from, like, certain types of drinks. You just drink it. Take some supplements. Like, you can literally survive without even eating anything.
So do you think that the animals that are out in the wild that are strictly carnivore?
Why are you talking about
evil
something
then?
else now?
Because you're saying eating meat eating just meat is not good for you. So do you think that the animals out in the wild that are strictly carnivore, if they're not healthy, they're not good?
You're not
They are
a wild
strictly
animal.
carnivore.
Yes, but we as humans are also mammals. That is something we are. It's called evolution. So
Some
do you
mammals
think?
are herbivorous animals,
Yep, and they're fun, but we are not.
but we're also not carnivorous.
No, we are both.
You can get everything.
word is
It's just
omnivore.
descriptive.
The word
That
is
just
omnivore.
describes what we've been doing. That's not a requirement. That does not mean that you have to live that way.
Okay, so, but still, if
Yeah, but still, what?
eating just meat is bad, then why do a whole bunch of animals out in the wild do it and they're fine?
If you think that we should respect animals, right? You said that when you said you're against, like, torturing animals, right? And killing them in a horrible way. So why would you not choose to just let them live? That's the whole question here. It doesn't matter about
Because
wild
it's-
animals. It doesn't matter
it's
about
the
what other
food
people
chain.
are doing. The food
It's
chain
the
is
food
also
chain.
just descriptive. That is not a requirement.
Okay, if you feel like that, that's fine.
It's not
Nobody's
a feeling.
saying you cannot feel
It's
like
a
that.
fact. When you eat other animals, you are making those decisions based on your feelings, and you are rejecting the facts.
What about animals trying to unalive us?
That has
you
nothing to
believe-
do with what we're talking about.
Well, you said that you should not be killing any animals. So if an animal tries to unalive me, what should I do?
You should not be exploiting other animals when you have other options. It's not a if you were attacking me, I would defend myself against you. If you were trying to unalive me, I would unalive you. It's a reasonable use of force. Like, that's
Okay, so
not even close to what we're talking about. You
how is it
literally
exploiting real quick?
You literally
How is it
exploit
exploiting?
the most defenseless, innocent animals that have never done anything to you. You take advantage of them because they're defenseless, innocent animals.
What animal is defenseless?
A chicken, a pig, a cow, a duck. The
A
fish
chicken
that
will
are
fuck
just
you
swimming
up.
around.
A chicken is not defensive. A chicken will fuck you up.
That is ridiculous. This guy's not being genuine at all. Thanks, Ben. Well, let's bring up another vegan here, possibly. How are you doing?
Hi, thank you for having me up.
Yeah, no problem. How do you say your name? I don't want to say it wrong.
You just call me Bruja.
Bruja. Okay, perfect.
Do you know what Bruja means?
No.
It's switch.
Okay, yeah. Nice.
In Spanish. Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
I used to just put like vegan Bruja on my profile, but everybody could only just read like vegans. Everybody would just call me vegan, but I prefer Bruja.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. I've seen some of your streams. I appreciate what you do.
Yeah, thank you. You too. I think like what this last person was talking about was they always bring up this issue, right? And I think it's just like such a big misconception because they believe that veganism is a diet, right? Because like
Yeah.
if you asked her, let's say that you could get everything that you need from a plant-based diet. Like, you put the hypothetical on there. They're still gonna. It's eventually not gonna be about the health or anything else. It's just gonna be like, well, I like the way it tastes.
Yeah,
Right?
feelings.
So,
Yep.
bottom line.
Somebody said, bro's so weak, could get unalived by a chicken.
I mean, I've seen videos of grown men running from a rooster. So
Yeah.
roosters they can be vicious.
Yeah, I get that. Like, they can be, so can cows and things like that. But if you're just it's like, you really shouldn't be worried about, like, these animals. These aren't animals that are gonna, like, try to eat you. You know what I mean?
But even if they did, that doesn't justify us exploiting them, right?
Right.
Because it's not like we go around eating lions and wolves and stuff.
Yeah, 100%. Right. All right, let's bring up the next person. Do you want me to add you as a mod so that you can bring people up and?
Yeah, sure, if you want.
Ben was up here, but he left. Okay, I think I did that right, so you should be able to bring people up now too. Okay, there's several people that want to come up. If you guys want to jump to the top of the list, send a gift or something and you can jump up. Looks like that person's not here. Ciao.
So, hi. So you care about animals being unalive?
Yeah, mainly exploited, but yeah, sure. If I don't have to, kill an animal, then I'm not going to.
Do you care about the suffering of an animal?
Yeah, of course I care about animal suffering as well, but that's
Right, so what about when an animal kills another animal?
If that's happening in front of me and I can stop it, then I'm gonna stop it.
What if you can't?
Well, then that sucks. Like, why aren't
you don't give a shit, then, do you?
Why aren't you vegan?
Why are you protesting for animals not to kill other animals?
I do, but that's not what I'm here to talk about.
Show me.
Why are you not vegan though?
Show me a protest where you stood up for where an animal kills another animal.
I have those conversations with other vegans, but right now I'm talking to people that aren't vegan.
Can you show me a protest that you've done, please? Because I've not seen one. And for you to stand there or sit there,
what are you talking about?
And say, yes, I do a protest for animals, unaliving other animals, it just shows you don't give a shit about animals. You just care about who's doing what. That's all. That's what you care about. You don't care about animals killing other animals.
Quiet, buddy.
You just care about who's doing it.
Can you just stop being so emotional for a second? Because it sounds like you're really concerned about other animals and what other animals are doing. But
I'm concerned about all animals, and according to you, I should be, no?
So are we, but the thing is that
other
animals...
You've just literally exposed yourself.
Are you going to listen to what we have to say, or you
don't have any concern of all animals?
But can we explain to you how?
But you don't have any concern of all animals, we just agreed to that.
You need to relax.
You're not listening to, like, what we're actually saying, though. Because,
show me that you have concern for all animals.
Okay, well, will you let us talk? Stop being so emotional. Can you just, like, take a deep breath for a second? Because this is supposed to be a conversation, right? So the reason that we don't base our morality on what other animals, especially animals in the wild, do is because they are moral patients, right? That means that they don't have the ability to make moral decisions the same way that you and I do. So when an animal unalives another animal, they're doing that for survival and based on instinct. We, on the other hand, are
No. I don't care what the reason is, right?
Hold on a second. So we, on the other hand...
reason is.
Dude, if you keep interrupting, you're going to get dropped.
We're moral.
That means you're selectively.
No, we're not. So
selectively care.
Oh my gosh!
All right, bye.
You need to relax.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. You can finish what you were saying.
And that's virtual signaling at its best, because like a lot of people don't realize that the vast majority of wildlife extinction, it's like the leading cause of wildlife extinction is actually animal agriculture. Yeah. Like only 4% of our wild biomass, of our mammalian biomass, is wild animals. Over 90% of our mammalian biomass is like farmed animals. So if you care about actual wild animals, like you would be vegan. That's why we're vegan, because we don't just care about farmed animals. We also care about all the animals. Like, what a ridiculous stance. And why was he so angry?
And the biomass used to be like 50-50. So it literally went from, as far as what I saw before, it used to be like 50-50, and now it's like you said, 96% to 4%.
I even think 50-50 was way too much. That's insane.
Yeah. It has just gone to a crazy extreme. Like, people don't even really know that or understand that. Like, that's a huge
really
difference.
They don't understand. Like, one of the things that's like near and dear to my heart is Brazil, because my daughter is Brazilian and she was born in Brazil, and I have a home in Brazil.
Nice.
And 40% of the Brazilian Amazon has been cut down, and the leading cause of it is for animal agriculture, because Brazil is now the #1 exporter of beef in the world. And like, Brazil, or the Amazon, is actually home to the largest biodiversity on Earth. And so it's like, you care about the animals so much that you're going to continue to eat them so that other wild animals are, like, it's just such virtual signaling. It's crazy.
Yeah, definitely. And that's mainly the beef down there is all like JBS, isn't it? They're like the biggest meat company like in the world for like at least cows.
Yeah, I mean, fogo de chão, right? Like the big meat, like, that's become so popular to me that it's insane. Like, have you ever been to these like Brazilian steakhouses?
There's, I'm not sure. Yeah. There's like fogo de chão. They're Brazilian, right?
Yeah, that's the one I was referencing. That one started in Rio de Janeiro. So and like, I went to one in Brazil because I had some friends visiting and they wanted to go there like a long time ago, like way before I was vegan. And then I went to one in the United States. Also, the ones in the United States are insanely excessive, but just in general, it is just like gluttony at its finest. It is just so disgusting, because they literally come at you with just like, skewers upon skewers of just flesh. Like, nobody needs that much meat. It's just like so ridiculously and excessive.
Yeah, it's wild. The way that we treat animals is so crazy. Let's bring up the next person now. Lowest, who's still here? Doesn't look like it. Jim? No. I really don't understand why all these people request to come up and then they don't even wait like a few minutes. You're not here either. Sky. Looks like Sky's loading. You're over 18?
Yeah, I am.
So have you ever thought about being vegan before?
Yeah, I definitely thought about it.
So what's stopping you?
I don't think there's like one specific thing. I just don't think I'm morally obligated to be vegan.
So do you have any pets or anything like that? Do you have any animals that you've had relationships with?
Sure.
Right. Do you see them as individuals?
No.
No. You've had relationships with animals, but you don't see them as individuals. Can you explain that?
Yeah, it's. I think they might have like a certain level of intrinsic dignity, maybe like a low one, but the way that humans have a relationship with pets typically is just based on like external or instrumental value. Like, I am the reason why my cat has value to me, not what the cat is.
Sure,
like intrinsically.
Your cat can have more value to you than other cats because that's your cat, right? Like, same thing with your human friends. Like, I value my friends more than I value a random stranger on the street, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to exploit a random stranger on the street because I don't know them, right? It's the same with other animals.
Because other people on the street have intrinsic value.
And you said that animals do to a certain extent.
Very, very, very low amounts, yeah.
But even if it's just a little bit, then why do you feel like it's okay to like take that away from them? for
Oh,
something
yeah,
that
I
you
think-
completely don't need.
I think like unaliving things. I think if you have a significantly like qualitatively amounts of value that is higher compared to another being, in certain cases it's definitely okay to unalive another being. For example, like if like an extensive kind of flourishing comes from that, then that's okay.
But you can get anything that you need from plants. Like you don't have to exploit animals for anything. So why?
That's true, but I care about like the extensive amount of flourishing that comes from doing that to animals.
You can flourish just as much without exploiting animals, probably even more.
Wait, no, that's not the case if the person loves eating meat. Their flourishing would be removed.
You can basically get the same thing from eating plants.
Like, I'm not talking about like the nutritional value. I'm talking about the enjoyment, the emotions,
that's
the
what I'm
joy,
talking about,
the
too.
flavor.
It's exactly what I'm talking about too. There's studies where they did a blind taste test between like Beyond Burgers or you know something like a Beyond Burger and like actual cows that were made into products, and the people really didn't even notice the difference. They actually preferred the plant-based option instead.
Oh yeah, that's not flourishing. If you're being lied to, you can't
What?
flourish.
What are you talking about? That's ridiculous.
What, if you're saying like
Okay, that's ridiculous.
maybe you
You're
could
saying that
reach-
you flourish because you know you're exploiting an animal? That's crazy.
Look, if it's you, if you're saying like, look, we can lie to ourselves and pretend that it's better or the same thing because we don't know, that's not true flourishing because you're being misled. I don't think like you're genuinely
that being
flourishing.
misled?
You're lying to your, because they didn't tell people what they were eating. What are you talking about?
All right, we're gonna bring somebody else up because you're not being very
Oh,
genuine.
running.
You are ridiculous. I'm not here to talk
They're
to
not like
somebody
it's
like
morally
you.
they're not morally consistent anyways, because like, you know, certain humans have, you could arguably have more value than others, right? Like a woman, I could argue that a woman has more value than a man because a woman can actually repopulate the earth, right? This is just a hypothetical. But like if you're going to be basing, like there still has to be a baseline of moral consideration for, let's say, a man, right? Because they are a sentient individual. Like what we're saying is that we're not saying that animals are the same as humans. We're just saying that they are worthy of the most basic moral consideration, which means that they have a right to their life and not be exploited. And I think she's just like conflating this whole like human supremacy with, you know, we can do whatever we want, as opposed to offering like baseline moral consideration. And I think she's just like morally confused.
Yeah, she was contradicting herself with some of the things that she was saying. For sure. Lawrence, are you still here? Looks like it. Are you over 18 when you load in? Lawrence, you're on.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I'm over 18. Yeah.
All right, awesome. Have you ever thought
Where's the other
about
phone?
you ever thought about being vegan?
No, because you can't survive as a. What I will say is, I think, naturally. But that's the interesting. Nobody actually knows, right? So the actual what we're supposed to be eating, what the thing is. But I've always felt so much healthier and so much better when I eat fish and steak and things like this. Honestly, it's unbelievable. You know the difference you feel, the amount of nonsense and sort of weeds and legumes and all that shit you have to. Honestly, you just can't do it. So I don't think we're meant to eat that shit. No.
I know some vegans that have been vegan for decades.
Morally,
I know some people that have been vegan longer than I've been alive, and they're healthier than most people.
But morally, unless I was starving, I could not walk up to a lamb and kill it. No, I couldn't do it. So we're
Right.
in a
So
bit
if
of
you can't do it, if you wouldn't do it
dodgy
yourself,
situation.
that's one of the things that I reflected on when I became vegan. I would not kill an animal myself. I was literally paying
What?
other people to do it. If I couldn't do it myself, then I figured it's wrong for me to pay somebody else to do it for me. So you feel the same way. So why don't you stop paying for it and just choose those other options? You can thrive and survive off of plants alone.
If you look at like any civilization from really all over the world, including the ones we hate, like the European,
it doesn't matter.
cultures, they will. There is even like the Celtic. If you go real back, like although we hate the European stuff, they do. There is sort of a sacrificial. They understand that killing an animal.
But we can't base
sense?
morality on what
Whereas
our ancestors did.
But now you just see
Lauren,
it in a package.
can we go back to the? Can we go back to the? Lawrence, can we go back to the point where you were
And it's so
talking about?
detached
Lawrence,
from what's actually
Lawrence, can
happening.
you hear me?
No.
Lawrence,
Yeah. Sorry.
can you hear me? So can we go back to the part where you said morally you could not unalive a lamb, because that's the important part, right? The nutrition and evolution, none of that is actually as important as being morally aligned, right? Because we currently live in a society in which we have the privilege of being able to make choices and ensure that our choices are rationally and ethically aligned, right? So why would you, morally speaking, not be okay with unaliving a lamb yourself?
No, morally, I couldn't justify it. No.
Okay, why not?
There's no.
But what about it? What about it is wrong to you?
Because if a lamb walked up to me, could I just slit its throat and kill it? Sorry, I know that's probably not allowed to be said, but no, I could not. I could not do it.
Okay, but why? The question is why. You're paying for somebody else to do it.
So I would feel probably the same emotions because there is a mammalistic. There's a.
What about the lamb? What about the lamb? What about the lamb's experience? Because
they do experience very similar things, probably in terms of fear and pain and all these things.
They're sentient. They have similar experiences. Yeah.
But actually,
and that's exactly the moral. So that's the moral stance. The reason that we grant non-human animals moral consideration is because they are sentient. It's because they are capable of having these subjective phenomenal experiences just like you and me. They're capable of feeling pain, of feeling fear, of feeling happiness, right? And so what we say is that if you wouldn't want that done to you, why would you then pay for somebody else to do it, right? And if you yourself are would not be able to do it yourself and you have moral qualms about it, then that means that there is a moral inconsistency with your actions and your belief system. And so as a rational agent that we hope that you are, wouldn't you hope to live your life in a more rational, ethical way? And therefore, if you see yourself that there's something that's morally inconsistent, wouldn't you want to take action to correct that?
You can't wander the world being
moral.
Jesus.
You can't wander the world being moral and try to make as ethical decisions as you possibly can, and you have the option to. That's what you're saying?
You're gonna constantly be hit with ethical decisions.
Yeah. And so the reason that veganism. So let me explain to you. What veganism is. So veganism is an ethical stance.
Most people that eat meat.
Hold on, Lawrence. I need you to listen for a second. Veganism is the ethical stance against the unnecessary exploitation of sentient beings when practicable and possible. That means when you are able to make that decision and it doesn't affect your survival, right? When you are able to avoid unnecessary exploitation, then that's the choice that we take, right? And that's the choice that we hope that as rational and ethical human beings, we should all strive to take. And that we're not saying like people come up here and say ridiculous things like, oh, well, you shouldn't have a phone or you shouldn't have a television, you shouldn't drive a car because all those things are exploitative. And the thing is they can be exploitative, but there is no direct link in exploitation. You can't point to the sentient being that was exploited for me to have my secondhand phone, right? There is a possibility that there's exploitation, but we can make more ethical choices when it comes to those type of things, like buy secondhand phones, not buy phones as often, right? And advocate for more ethical electronics. But the thing about the animal agriculture industry is that there's no way, similarly to how you feel, there's no way to make an ethical choice here.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Sorry. I'm just looking at that comment. I like eating meat. I think you're hoping people are better than you than they really are. I think they act like as all animals act, in that if it's easiest in their moment, they're going to go for it.
But you're not a wild animal is the thing, right? And you have.
I think in our hearts we are. I think.
No, we're not. We're not. We're rational agents. We actually have what's called sapience, right? Which some people might call something like wisdom. We have the ability to make these moral decisions, right? And that's why, honestly, a lot of. I understand that, but it also actually is in our interest to do away with the animal agriculture industry because it is a leading cause of deforestation, it is a leading cause of wildlife extinction, it is a leading cause of greenhouse gases.
I honestly just think if a lamb walks
then you're an irrational. But see how you're being irrational because you already agree with the moral qualms of the animal agriculture industry, and you also are saying that you also understand that it is not, as human beings, not in our best interest to continue the animal agriculture industry, but you're being irrational by saying, well, I'm going to do it anyways because I like how it tastes. So you're saying that sensory pleasure justifies exploitation and basically like almost self-harm.
And if you study...
Did you hear what I just said? Did you hear what I just said?
Yeah, I completely did, yeah. But if you actually study how...
So are you okay with that? Hold on. You have to it's a conversation, so you have to respond to that. Like, you can't look at history and say like, oh, we've always done it this way, because there's a lot of really horrific things that we've done in history. Like I stated earlier when we were starting our conversation, we live in 2026, in which we have the privilege of being able to make ethical and rational decisions.
Yeah. But okay, well, I mean, sorry. So what we should, my answer again would be it's always going to continue because, well, it makes money, and people are emotionally.
Well, the whole money thing, like
they're emotionally.
I know, but there are the laws of economics, right? There's the laws of economics, supply and demand, right? Farmers only supply these products because people are demanding them. So that's why we have these conversations with people in order to help little by little people stop demanding these products, because honestly, they are already, like, the demand is already going down. People would not even be able to afford animal products if it wasn't because they were subsidized by almost every government in the world. Because the true price of animal agriculture is far too high. Like, we are all subsidizing the, like, obliteration of our planet through animal agriculture. But that's besides the point, right? Again, it all comes back to, like, you're saying, you're appealing to futility. You're saying, like, well, people are always going to do this. It's like, yeah, people are always going to do horrific things, but it doesn't mean that you have to participate in it. As a rational and ethical agent that I hope that you are, Lawrence.
But it wouldn't be individual people that would, that's not what you got to fix. Yeah. It's the normalization of everything.
And that's why we have these conversations to denormalize it.
Yeah, no, I don't think the only way you'd ever do it is it becomes financially viable to denormalize it.
And that's why we have these conversations, so that people stop paying for that, because it already is. Like, you can see it in everyday life, everywhere. Like, I became vegan almost 10 years ago, and 10 years ago there was not the amount of vegan choices or the talk about veganism as there is today. It is veganism is the largest or the fastest growing social justice movement in the world right now. We are, like, I think anywhere between 1% to 3% of the world's population, and studies have shown that it only requires 3.5% of the world's population to have actionable change in order to not be able to stop that movement, and for there to be actual change in the world. So we're very, very, very close to the tipping point in which people are no longer going to be able to ignore veganism.
All right, cool. All right, well, I'll go. Yeah, no, so, all right, so. I'm not going to just debate you for nothing yet. All right.
Well, I hope that you'll think about this conversation. Maybe reflect on, the biggest point that you were talking about.
People,
Lawrence, I'm not talking to people. Lawrence, I'm not talking to people, Lawrence. Lawrence, I'm talking to you.
this is where it all will come down to.
Lawrence, we're talking to you. We're not talking to other people. That's why we only talk to one person at a time, right? The only thing that I hope that you'll do as a rational agent, that I keep hoping that you are, I hope that you'll take this conversation and really think about the biggest point that you yourself admitted to, that you do not think that it's moral to unalive these animals and you wouldn't be able to do it yourself. So I want you to think, hold on, just take that with you.
When you comment, it's already, I love protein.
I hope that you'll take that. I hope that you'll take that with you. Maybe do some research into plant-based diets, and you'll see that you can actually survive and thrive on a plant-based diet. So just take that information with you.
I think it probably comes from because we don't know enough about our true ancestry and that, and it
doesn't matter. We know about our biology now,
bodies
Lawrence.
live
We know about our biology now, Lawrence. There has been extensive
Our bodies
studies.
are designed pre-farming.
Lawrence,
so
our bodies were not designed.
For food all the time.
Lawrence, our bodies were not designed. We have evolved, and we are currently we are currently adapting. Hold on,
We can
Lawrence. We are adapting. We can, but that doesn't mean we have to. We are adapting to our current society. Did you know that our brains are actually getting smaller? Because they're becoming more specialized. So we're currently adapting, right? It doesn't the things that our ancestors needed are not the things that we need right now,
We
right?
don't
Because
need it to survive, but to survive, it's a lot easier to hunt animals than it is to run around hunting plants.
It's not.
Just calories based.
It's
It
not.
is.
No, it's not. But you should do your research about it though, and just think about the moral aspect of it, because everything else, logistic-wise, it's
the moral
doable.
aspect of it, I completely with you. I completely agree.
But then that's the important part, because logistically speaking, everything else is very doable.
All right, Sam. Anyhow, I'll go back. Take care.
Bye.
Okay. Thank you for handling that conversation.
It's okay. I mean, it's really interesting, and I think those are the important conversations, and because the moral aspect is the one that's really going to get people thinking, and I hope that Lawrence will think about it more.
Yeah, if you want to think about it more, go to animaljustice21.org, and it's an ethical reflection challenge. So there's some questions there that'll just get you thinking a little bit more about your relationship with animals. There's no right or wrong answer. You can just put in a couple of words. You can do a whole paragraph if you want. But yeah, go through it. It only takes a few minutes a day to do each challenge or each reflection. It's not really a challenge. It's just reflections, and you can learn a lot there. You can learn everything there. The core 21 days are ethically focused. But if you have questions about nutrition or any other products that you want to find other products for different things, there's ways that you can ask questions and reach out to certain people if you want to learn more about specific things. So I think it's the best resource out there. Let's bring up, it looks like a hunter, if you're still here, and you have to stay in the app here. You're over 18?
Yeah. I'm 23.
Cool. So why are you not vegan? Are you a hunter?
Yes, I am. So I will just kind of come in here and lay out, kind of my baseline just for the sake of the conversation. So I do not support factory farming. I agree with Brewhall that the worst thing that happened to this planet is humans and industrialization, especially deforestation. However, I work in wildlife biology in the United States. I've been able to work across the United States doing habitat risk management surveys and environmental impact statements. And you cannot deny that currently hunting is a needed and necessary tool for wildlife management. Now, all the meat that I consume is animals that I consume through hunting. Through hunting practices, you do it through legal means in the state that have been set by wildlife biologists who dictate the carrying capacity of an ecosystem and ways to mitigate the pressure that's occurring in ecosystems. And I've talked to people, quite often. They're like, "Oh, well, if we just don't do anything and let nature be natural, it'll all work out." But the fact of the matter is that's not true anymore. Humans have had such a profound impact on the environment that we have permanently changed ecological systems. So if we do not now step in and help fill that gap in the dynamics of predation and help to manage populations effectively, we're going to have complete ecological collapse. And so that's kind of my thing is, with vegans, I'm all for vegans, being against factory farming. I feel the same way. I think it's deplorable. But coming down to it, I don't see how vegans, if they truly care about, specifically you said if there's two animals fighting, you would step in and stop it if you were there. Without hunting, we would see populations collapse across the United States. We would lose keystone species. We would have ecosystems collapse. And the management system we have in place does a perfect job of managing that. So as a vegan, I don't know how you could be against that.
What do you think about deer farms?
Oh, I think they're the worst thing ever. They're one of the reasons why we have such deplorable zoonotic diseases. I've been against deer farms since they've been a thing.
Right. So, if you have an option to not take an animal out, like, why are you not choosing that option?
What do you mean?
Like, living vegan is the best thing you can do for the environment.
So
the leading cause of species decline is because we farm animals.
Jake, here's the thing. If it came down to it, if you came to me and you said, hey, you can never eat meat again, but hunting is still needed, I would still go out there and hunt, even if I can never eat meat again.
But hunting's not needed.
For me, like I just stated in the intro, humans have permanently changed the environment for the worse.
Because we farm animals.
Not just because we farm animals.
Yeah,
because
mainly,
of industrialization, that goes hand in hand with it. That is a factor. I agree with you. But it's not the sole factor.
It's the biggest factor.
The biggest factor is climate change. That is the most widespread factor.
And the biggest factor of climate change is animal agriculture and other things, like you said too. Like, there's a lot that plays into it, but the biggest thing you could do to change.
We don't need to argue on the semantics. We're closer in agreement on this specific point than we are from disagreeing, so we can move past that. However, when we break it down from a wildlife biology standpoint, we have removed all of the apex predators across the vast majority of their native range. Now, currently, we're doing restocking efforts. We're reintroducing wolves in Colorado. We reintroduced black bears in Arkansas, so on and so forth. I can give you tens of examples of it. However, what we found is that when we do this, because of the profound effect that we've had on the ecosystem, these systems do not naturally balance. Now, the natural balance is called the dynamics of predation. That is the predator-prey relationship that keeps ecosystems below carrying capacity. If carrying capacity is exceeded, then we see the ecosystem collapse. Examples of this is Yellowstone before they did their reintroduction efforts, whenever Yellowstone was trying to be commercialized. This is before TR came in and created the national park system. Now, with hunting, the main reason why we hunt in the United States from a wildlife biology standpoint is for successful management of ecosystems. Now, the three big reasons why we hunt is to manage overpopulation, to mitigate the spread of zoonotic diseases, and to increase genetic variability in ecosystems. The reason we do this is because this allows them to have a strong enough foothold to where that population will not collapse. Now, the fourth reason, and it's kind of just the broad span, is that we come in and we mitigate the dynamics of predation. Now, if you look up a graph of how the dynamics of predation work, if you've ever looked at a map of frequencies, so like microwaves, gamma rays, etc., it looks like waves. That is the same way that the dynamics of predation works. You'll have a wave of prey populations that reach the crest of that wave and then the bottom of that wave throughout let's say a 10-year cycle. So if we have a rabbit population that reaches the peak at, year 10, if you have a lynx population that's hunting them, then they'll only be at year 7. So then when those lynx reach their peak at year 10, the rabbits are on a 3-year decline. The populations don't keep up with each other. That's how they manage each other. However, because we have all these outside factors now, including diseases, because we don't have the habitat to support them anymore, so on and so forth, now if we have a dip in that wave, so at their lowest point, that's no longer sustainable, because we could have that lowest point and we could have a winter that's too hot and the ticks don't die off and they end up, unaliving the vast majority of that population. And then we lose them in that ecosystem. Or we can have a year where a disease comes in like sarcocystitis and wipes out that population. Then there's no prey base in that ecosystem, so all the predators die out. What hunting does is, instead of following the traditional dynamics of predation that is no longer sustainable, instead of having those waves, it creates a flat line where we keep it just under carrying capacity That way ecosystems have enough biomass to sustain themselves.
Can I jump in? You know that there's no actual research that supports that hunting is the most effective way for population control.
Yep.
Might I add, a man-made problem.
It is a man-made problem. I agree.
You sound very educated on this, and you would be a great voice for the animals in balancing the ecosystem and things like that as well. But like, if you learned that there were other options that we have to manage populations and optimize the ecosystems and the environment that didn't include taking the animals out,
Violence.
like if we had other options, why don't you advocate for those other options and let the
I've
animals
talked about
live?
those other options at length. You know, the big three for those other options are reintroduction of native predators. I've touched why that doesn't work. Expansion of habitat. I've touched why that.
Hold on. Actually, it does work. There is research that supports that. Hold on 1 second. There's research that supports that is the strongest ecological approach to population control, combined with other type of efforts. Yeah, I have it here. But there are a lot of other ways in which we can combine different ways to control populations, because when you're talking about hunting, like professional culling, not recreational, is actually a more effective way to control populations, right? But that's not what is advocated, and that's what most people. That's not what most people do, right? Like you also hold on. I wasn't finished. The other thing that you have to keep in mind is that there are other forces at play here, like such as the NRA, which greatly benefits from promoting hunting, because you know that recreational hunting is not effective because most people who recreationally hunt, they actually target males, and when male populations go down, the populations actually go up. Right? I'm sure you know that.
So there's a lot to touch on there. I'm going to try to hit everything you just said, because you said a lot of stuff that has some basis behind it, but you said a lot of stuff that is a common misconception. So first off, I want to touch on, targeted removal by, trained officials versus hunting. That was the big one I tried to stop you and touch on. So I'm going to use California as an example. Mountain lion hunting in California was outlawed in the 1990s. At that time, they removed, on average, 450 mountain lions a year. Now, that was sustaining carrying capacity. Now, as of last year, trained officials came in and they removed 480 mountain lions per year. Now, you hear that and you're like, oh, that's great. They removed 30 extra lions than what the hunters were doing. But here's the big differentiating factor. Hunting in North America is the main funder for wildlife conservation. Now, by letting the general public go out and hunt, what they were able to do is control that carrying capacity, and the money that they pay for that mountain lion tag, for that license. The Pittman-Robertson Act is an excise tax on all hunting and fishing goods. So the money they would pay for, everything they needed to do that directly goes back into wildlife conservation. My job is paid by the Pittman-Robertson Act, which is that excise tax that supports wildlife conservation. Where California is bringing in outside government officials to do it, instead of making millions of dollars off of it, California spent $2 billion over the last 5 years to control wildlife populations, instead of letting the general public go out and do that. So, while it is true that it can be effective at doing it, hunting by the general population is also just as effective, and it actually generates money for wildlife conservation. So that's kind of that big misnomer. Now, another thing, a common misconception is that by targeting only males, you create a vacuum effect in an ecosystem that increases the population. This also is not true. According to statistics by the University of Alberta, who did a major deer study a few years ago, I love using them. They have a great institution up there. When we're talking about a natural vacuum effect in an ecosystem, deer have a rose-type structure in an ecosystem. So you'll have a matriarchal doe, and then she'll have daughters. Those daughters will have daughters, so on and so forth. The bucks become transient, so the bucks will go around different populations. They have a much wider home range. Whenever you're targeting mature males, that is a beneficial factor because it increases genetic variability. Now, it does not cause a vacuum effect where they start producing more bucks in that ecosystem. There's no scientific evidence that occurs.
There actually is, and there's evidence to support that when there are less buck available, that the females will go into heat earlier. They'll go through puberty earlier. So, you can cite different sources, but the thing is like, there isn't one general, in terms of hunting, like it's not the same across the board everywhere, right?
So I use peer review.
So I think we need to refocus the conversation into the actual true nature of veganism, which is the unnecessary exploitation of sentient beings. Because let's say that yes, like the funding and all these things that you're saying is correct, right? Like we understand that. We understand that there are man-made problems that perhaps we need to also solve ourselves, right? However, what we're getting at is that most of the people, like you yourself, your job, like that's great. Like you're working on it, that's awesome. That's actually who we need working on these type of problems. Is we need professional people, right? We don't need people who are going out there to hunt recreationally, right? When they have other options, right? Because I think in terms of funding, if we lived in a vegan world, there would not be any issues when it comes to funding. We would have the funding and we would have the research, and that's what we advocate for, right? We advocate for a world in which unnecessary exploitation is what we all strive to, right? Because the people that are going out there to hunt are not people who need it. Like if there were people who need to hunt because they have literally no other options, they're living off the land, we're not against that. That's not something that we're against, because that's a survival situation. We're talking to people who have other choices and can practice veganism when it's practicable and possible to them, right? So like I think we need to like reframe the conversation. It's like, your work is awesome, keep up the great work, but let's talk about like your actual participation in unnecessary exploitation in your personal life. Like maybe not so much your professional life, because like Jake said, if you were to become vegan, you would be a great advocate for conservation, right? But what we want to talk about is like unnecessary exploitation. Like, are there any aspects of your personal life in which you participate in unnecessary exploitation?
So with that, yeah, I feel like it would depend on your definition. So, don't consume any dairy products.
Well, I
don't
gave you the definition. So the definition is participating in unnecessary exploitation when practicable.
Yeah, let me reel that in a little bit for you. So, for example, I don't purchase any animal products. I don't consume dairy products, so on and so forth. Like, other than, purchasing vegetables, I try to grow a lot of that too. I live in a food desert in rural Appalachia. The meat that I consume comes from hunting. Now, when we're talking about, unnecessary exploitation, when it comes to recreational hunting, because of the system we have in place, I would argue that we currently do not have unnecessary exploitation of wildlife in the United States, because it is so effectively managed under the North American model of wildlife conservation. A great peer-reviewed source for that from 2021 is a study called The Consequences of Recreational Hunting for Biodiversity Conservation and Livelihoods. It's by One Earth. The author is Den Benin et al., so others also. And the key takeaways of this study is it was a peer-reviewed study that analyzed over 1,000 other peer-reviewed studies all the way from 1931 to 2021. And what they found is that regulated hunting contributes to wildlife conservation, population management, and funding for conservation when appropriately managed under the North American model of wildlife conservation. And in that, they also discuss, drawbacks. They discuss where hunting may not achieve conservation goals. And it's a balanced review. It is, right down the middle. And when we're talking about where they can't achieve those conservation goals, we talk about the alternatives. So, for example, overpopulations in highly urbanized areas where hunters and wildlife management agencies are working with a company out of Canada called Spayvac to, along with removal of excess population, to go in and inject animals with a contraceptive. So it's not that I'm like, hunting is the only way to do everything. But hunting is the most valuable tool for wildlife conservation. And because it is so effectively managed under the North American model, even if it's just someone that wants to go out and hunt for the wrong reasons, right? Morally, they're doing it for the wrong reason. They're just worried about putting antlers up on their wall, which I think is deplorable. The fact that they are doing it legally, that they're buying a license, that they're buying a tag, that they're going out and they're hunting within the confines and restrictions that are created for them, it makes it to where there is not a net negative on that ecosystem. It makes it a positive.
Okay, I understand. Like, I think we're getting off track again. So let me ask you a question. Some might argue that humans are overpopulated. Would you be okay with us going out to cull humans because we are overpopulated without exhausting all available non-violent resources? I think the answer to that is no.
Yeah, it's no.
It's a no, of course. Of course it's a no. I'm glad you said it's a no, because it is definitely, most certainly a no. That's our stance. Our stance is, let's exhaust all possible resources without turning to violence, without exploiting these animals for like a simple like sensory pleasure, because that's what it is to most people, right?
Can I,
To most people,
can I say the differentiating factor though for my stance on it? Because I'm really close with what you're saying. However, there is a factor that persuades me against that stance, and that is that humans, even though we are bad at it, you agree that we are moral agents. We do have a higher level of morality and just function than most wild animals have. Am I wrong in saying that? Like, we can think at a higher level than these animals can?
well, we're sapient, right?
Yes, yes.
We're sapient, and animals, the thing we share with animals is sentience.
Yes. Okay. So I don't disagree with you on that at all. Now, what I would say is the differentiating factor between us and most wildlife is that human beings have the ability to self-regulate. You can't go out into the woods and put up signs for the deer that say, hey, you all are having too many babies. We need to cut back on that. However, we can do that with humans. Now, do they always follow it? No, but we can. Example is China with their restrictions on, the amount of children people can have. Now, when we're talking about...
But arguably that didn't work, right?
Yes, and the fact that we have the ability to do that is a differentiating factor.
Yeah,
so we can argue
wouldn't you say that then that gives us more responsibility, because the fact that we are sapient, we have the ability to make these moral decisions. They don't have the problem that remember that this is a man-made problem that we created. So if we are responsible for this problem, why would we be punishing the animals for something that they have no control over? We've taken over their habitats, we've fractured their habitats, and that's why to us they are overpopulated. We've created these problems ourselves. So again, like, what we're saying is that let's exhaust all other possible resources, and then the people do that. Again, This has nothing to do with your professional life. Like, I think you're conflating your professional life with your personal life, and like what we're trying to talk about is your personal life. It's like you said, you don't buy any other products, so like you don't go out to restaurants, or you don't eat at anybody's home.
Closest restaurant to me is an hour away. I mean, I live in the middle of nowhere.
So you only consume the animals that you eat. And so, I mean, arguably, if you don't have access to any other like sources of food, then arguably this could be a survival situation for you if you're being
there is grocery store. Like, we have grocery store in town.
Okay, so you do have access to other choices. And the thing is, it's like you can be fully healthy and thrive on a fully plant-based diet if you have the access to these resources. So then again, like, now you're blending your personal life with your professional life, where it's like it may not be necessary for you to consume these animal products.
Yeah, I agree with you. However, again, what I would say is I consume meat that I hunt through hunting. So with that, we're talking about consuming meat through exploitation and unnecessary exploitation. Currently, I feel like that is not unnecessary. I feel like it's needed. And when we're talking about, looking into, well, let's find a better way to do it, I don't disagree with that. And like, we found a way to manage wildlife where it's like, hey, we never need to hunt again because we have found this solution. I would be like, all right, awesome. Shut down the hunting seasons. Let's take it back to as natural can get it. But the arguments against that is, one, we can't stop what we're doing right now and try to do that, because then by the time we come up with that solution, all our habitats will already be gone. All our ecosystems will be collapsed.
But again, you're going back to your professional life. I'm talking about you personally, right? So
this is my personal statement on this.
Hold on, but you said you still consume, like, you have access to other options, but then you're still choosing to hunt for personal pleasures, not for a professional like situation in which you're trying to conserve the animal. Because because even if you hunted, here's the other thing. Like, even if you hunted, right, it would be more beneficial for you to leave the animal there for the earth to take it back, for scavengers, for it to nourish the actual forest, instead of taking it back with you to then consume. Because again, in that situation, you're still looking at the animal as a resource or a commodity for you when you have other options. And that's the argument that we're making, is because you're not quite making the connection between these animals being like individuals and then or them serving as a resource or commodity for you.
So Brujo, what you're saying, and I get what you're saying, but just, for clarification's sake, for one, leaving it there would not be more beneficial. It can create a reliance on our scavengers and our carrion eaters in the ecosystem to rely on human-provided sources of nutrition, and that can decrease the effect that they have on carrying capacity in an ecosystem. So it would not be more beneficial to leave it lying. That's another
You can bury it. You can bury it there, like. Problem
again,
solved.
if you bury
It goes back into the earth.
Brujo,
And then
we
the worms
can
go.
argue semantics all the time.
Yeah, and then that's the thing. You're right. We can argue semantics, and we can leave it to the experts to figure out like other more sustainable issues. That's not the reason that you're consuming this animal. It's not the reason that you're consuming this animal because then other animals are going to become dependent on it. The reason you're consuming these animals is because you still see them as a resource and a commodity for you to benefit you when you have other options. And that's what we're saying, right? Again, if you didn't have any other options, like you're fully dependent on this animal to survive because you don't have other options, then yeah, by all means, that's a survival situation.
So let me break down my moral stance as plainly as I can, just so you understand it. So for me, I know you keep complaining back to, let's separate your professional life out of it. For me, I have a deep-rooted care for the environment, for the ecosystem. Personally speaking, like I value natural habitats and ecosystems more than anything. So when I'm saying this, it's not coming from, this is my job. This is coming from, as a person, I value this more than anything in life. And that's why I hunt, first and foremost, is because when it comes to hunting around my area that I live, it is needed and necessary to ensure that whenever I go out in nature, it's as natural as it can be. That is a personal standpoint. Now, when we're talking about the consumption of the animal, for human beings, and you can agree with this, for human beings, for the vast majority of our history, we have been active predators in the ecosystem. And I understand, as you said, everybody, we're constantly evolving, like we've changed, our brains getting smaller, etc.
I'm sorry, I need to stop because we haven't been active predators. We actually, our origin story was scavengers, just so you know.
So I would very much so disagree with that.
It's like you can look at all the research, like they have discovered, like you're thinking about this from like a Hollywood antiquated patriarchal
I'm thinking about
conception.
This from
No, they have they discovered that we were mostly plant based. We were mostly plant based. Just we're going back to if you're talking back to a origin story. And the reason that we have the reason our acidic levels in our stomach are actually more akin to those of scavengers, and that's why a lot of people like to bring that up. But anyways, that's besides the point because that's our ancestry. Hold on.
Just for the sake of clarification, I have to address this.
Hold on.
Bruno, you interjected when I was talking.
You're talking about I know, but you're talking about our ancestry, and it's completely irrelevant to us today.
But for me, again, it's not.
It is irrelevant.
You can say it's relevant for you, but
it's irrelevant because
it's
an appeal to nature.
Let me explain why.
Let me explain to you why it's irrelevant. Okay.
Let me explain to you why it is. You can explain why it's irrelevant after I explain to you why it is.
Hold on. How can you make the argument that it is when you haven't even heard my argument, right? So an appeal to nature.
Hold on. I'm trying to save us all time because you can come on here and say you can argue it's irrelevant, but then I can say, well, it's irrelevant to you for that reason, but for me, it's relevant for this reason. So it would be a lot easier, and I think you would agree, just for the sake of conversation, if I came on here and said, this is why I care about it, and then if you still disagree with me, then you can do it. Because right now, you could be going down, a side shoot of it's irrelevant because we've changed. We're no longer ancestors. We've changed and all this, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to say, hey, that's not the reason why it's relevant to me. And then it's going to be like, okay, well, then what is it? And then I'm going to explain it, and we're going to recycle this whole thing. It's much easier when you're having a debate with someone to let them make their stance and then argue it. I don't want you to argue my stance before I make it.
But the thing is that your stance is irrelevant, right? Because you're appealing to nature.
It's the same thing I just said.
You're appealing to our nature.
You don't know why I'm going to say what I said.
Hold on. You're appealing to nature, right? You're appealing to our biology. But our biology, there's a lot of things in our biology that we don't adhere to today. Like, wearing glasses, taking antibiotics. All of these things are irrelevant to our current, actual way of living today.
I agree.
So then why are you appealing to our ancestors?
Because just because we have progressed as a society doesn't mean that personally I think we should leave behind all the things that made us human. Now, For example, humans have been a predator in an ecosystem. You said, oh, well, we're more akin to
We
scavengers.
haven't.
Let me explain. You said, oh, we're more akin to scavengers. Every anthropologist, and anthropology is the study of ancient humans, would
I
disagree
know what anthropology is. That's what I was telling you about.
I'm explaining it to everyone in chat that may not know. I'm not implying ignorance on you. I'm just, so we're all on the same basis of understanding. But every anthropologist would disagree with you. If humans were scavengers, then we would have no need for the creation of both Folsom points and Clovis points. If humans were scavengers, we would not have seen the decline in megafauna around the Pleistocene that we saw in America. The reason why humans came over the land bridge into the Americas is they were following migrating megafauna.
Actually, there's a lot of research to show that we were already here.
Please provide the peer-reviewed study. Please provide it.
I can find it, but
we will pause the conversation until you find it.
But listen, again, I can bring it up, but hold on.
No. I want it right now. I will
hold on one second.
I have Google Scholar pulled up.
Okay, hold on one second. The thing is that all of this is actually irrelevant to us today. It is, because you're living in 2026 in an air-conditioned house, using modern weapons that have nothing to do. You're talking on a phone to someone who's thousands of miles away from you. Like this, none of this has any relevance to you making an ethical and moral decision. We can go back and forth about the research, about our ancestors, about this and this and that, right? Like we can go back and forth about that, and that's fine. You can have your belief system about this. I can have my belief system about
exactly.
our origin story. Hold on, but that has nothing to do with how we should ethically live our lives today in 2026, when we have access to options, when we have the privilege and the luxury to be able to make rational and ethical decisions. I don't know what our ancestors doing in the past has anything to do with what we should do today.
It's as simple as this, Bruhal. It's as simple as this. Whenever I look at it, and all of the research suggests currently, without everything else and spending millions of dollars to try to find other solutions, and we've already done that, but so on and so forth, right? As the current research suggests, humans being an active predator in an ecosystem in North America is beneficial and needed for wildlife conservation. That is what the current research suggests. You can disagree with it, but I've provided sources and you have not. Now, for me, I agree that all the stuff in the past that our ancestors did, that we don't need to conflate all of that and follow all of that. I agree with you. However, culturally speaking, my grandmother was a full-blood Cherokee Native American. She lived in Cherokee, North Carolina on the reservation. For me, from a human standpoint, culturally speaking, hunting is an important part of my heritage and my family. It's a relationship with nature that I have. I think if all human beings had a closer relationship with nature, we would have a much better natural environment. We wouldn't worry about
culture is not a justification for unnecessary exploitation. Like,
but as I just said, it's not unnecessary currently. That's what I let off with.
It is unnecessary because
it's not.
It is unnecessary.
I just gave you all the reasons last night, and I even said I provided you a source, and you get to provide me.
It's not unnecessary. Look,
it's not unnecessary. I agree.
The only reason that you would need it for survival is if, nutritionally speaking,
I'm not talking about for survival.
That's what a necessity is.
I never said for survival.
There are needs and there are wants. Well, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about needs versus wants.
When I said this, I said nature as a whole. I said for nature as a whole. I said for nature as a whole.
Okay.
Go ahead.
You need to take a breath. So when we talk about unnecessary exploitation, right? We're talking about whether you need something for your survival, right? And you can still be part of your culture. Like, I come from an indigenous background myself too, but you can still be part of your culture. I'm still part of my indigenous culture. I just do it in a way that would honor my ancestors, because our ancestors did not exploit the land. They only used animals when they needed to. They didn't do it as a way for sensory pleasure, which is what currently people use it for, which is for entertainment and for taste pleasure, right? Because you don't need animals animals to survive any longer. If we could live in the way that our ancestors did, then great, let's do that. But we can't actually do that anymore. And I don't disagree with you that if more people had a more symbiotic relationship with the land, then we would all live in more harmony. But that's just not the reality of where we currently live. Again, I'm fast forwarding to 2026, not to like pre-colonial, like our pre-Hispanic time, or for myself, in which we lived in a way that was in harmony with nature. I'm talking about today. And again, you can still be part of your culture without participating in exploitation.
So I think you just kind of set me up for the best way to explain it. Where you're saying that today we're not living in harmony with nature, I will say, and you agree, I mean, you said it earlier, today we are not living in a vegan society. Now, you all are on here arguing that we should live in a vegan society. I come on here arguing that we should live in more harmony with nature. That is our differentiating factor. And let me explain, just as, baseline as I can. I'm going to break it down as easy as I can for you to understand my beliefs here. I'm going to do it one more time. All right? Hunting, for me, is not needed for me to survive. However, hunting is needed to effectively manage ecosystems around where I'm at. Now, because of this, and because I still value my cultural beliefs, not all of them, but some of them, just as you do, hunting is important for me because that's part of my culture. Consuming the animal is important for me because that's part of my culture. And it's also necessary and needed for wildlife conservation and effective management. So when it comes down to it, I am not exploiting these animals because I'm not, going in there and trophy hunting or this or that. I'm going in there, I'm removing animals for the sake of wildlife conservation for all the reasons I've brought up. And then I'm consuming these animals because it's an important cultural practice for me. It's not a doing this because I did that. It's a because wildlife conservation is needed, because I directly am taking the life of an animal, it is important for me to consume that animal from a cultural standpoint.
All right, thanks for coming up. We're going to move on to the next person. I let you come up here for a long time because I really appreciate your
I know, Jake,
knowledge.
I wish I got to talk to you more, man. I mean, it's your live. I would have loved to discuss more with you about, your beliefs and everything.
Yeah, I'm. We can talk another time. I want to stay focused on the animals. I appreciate your perspective on things, but just know that there's other options, other alternatives than just taking these animals out. So
before I leave, give me one.
Sure, you go ahead. Go 1 second.
Yeah, give me one with peer-reviewed source, because I can give you all of them with the sources to back them up, and why they are effective in some ways, but not in all.
Send me a message, and I'll send you some resources. I don't want to do it right now while I'm on the
live. For the sake
live.
of this conversation, I'll give you one. Contraceptives. That's the most popular one. Let's go in here and give these animals contraceptives.
Sure.
The main company doing that is Spayback. They're a Canadian company. They developed it for two reasons: feral horses and overpopulations of deer. Now, as I stated earlier with Brewhall, it can work in highly urbanized areas, but the big problem is it takes away the generation that increases genetic variability. The reason why hunting works is because death is natural and needed in an ecosystem. By, removing one individual from an ecosystem, you're not removing that individual's genetic bloodline. By doing a contraceptive that lasts that animal's life, because that's what it is, 6 to 8 years, the average lifespan of a deer is 4 to 5 years, you're removing an entire factor of genetic variability. Spayback, as the company, who is, again, the main contraceptive company for wildlife, came out and said, it's very good to use in partnership with hunting. That's what it comes down to, is that all these solutions that we're going to talk about that are other than hunting, if you look at every peer-reviewed source for them, it will say, yes, it can be effective in partnership with hunting, because hunting cannot be replaced because death is needed and natural in an ecosystem.
Yeah, okay. I think you're still using hunting to as a solution to problems that we created. And it's not, you're not really looking at the whole picture. So like there's other things that you could do as well, right? So like
such as
like living vegan. Like not
so tell me how living vegan is going to improve overpopulation, is going to improve genetic variability and mitigate the spread of zoonotic diseases.
We're gonna move on to somebody else. I don't want to keep talking about the same thing, but
answer the question.
So why aren't you vegan with all your other choices? Or maybe you are. I don't know. Are you against animal testing? Are you against?
Yes, I'm against
wearing animals.
Why are we changing the goalposts? You just made a claim. Tell me how that's true. You said that if I was vegan, then that would fix all the problems that hunting currently fixes. So again, if I'm vegan, how does that fix overpopulation?
I'm not saying it would
genetic
fix
diversity?
everything, but it's actually the root cause of a lot of the issues that you're talking
Okay,
about.
explain that.
We're gonna move on to somebody else. There's like over 20 people here.
Why are you making claims and not explaining it? Listen, I've been doing lives for a long time. I've got 114,000 followers from doing lives just like this. I don't want you to look bad on your live in front of your audience because you're trying to set the goal
Hold on.
post.
He's not looking bad. Look, listen, you're being kind of silly here. The reason that you're again, hold on, you're again. We don't care about what the chat does. The chat never agrees with us because most of the chat is not vegan. But listen, the reason that you are once again, he wants to move on is because once again you are conflating your personal life or your professional life with your personal life, right? You're justifying that you think that hunting is the most the best conservational practice for whatever population. You're conflating that with your personal life again, right? And so but they don't.
But they do.
You have a personal choice.
I can view it as
again,
a
I think
professional
because you're not able to distinguish those two,
recreational hunter.
and you have very, very strong beliefs that you think that you're doing the right thing, then okay, fine. If that's what you believe, then I don't think this conversation is going to be fruitful because we know that unnecessary exploitation is wrong, and you don't believe that you are doing anything wrong. So therefore, I don't think that you're ready for this ethical discussion, right? Because you were very much
here's my whole problem, and I'll say this.
So I think Jake, I didn't want to take over. I don't want to take over your life, but if you want to continue talking to him, I just don't think that he is like someone who's morally consistent is going to be able to continue having this conversation.
Listen, I'll say this and I'll leave. This will be the last statement I make on this whole live.
Go ahead.
Is that when it comes down to it, the arguments that I present are founded in both morality, personally, and the scientific facts that I have both through my professional life and the independent research that I've done. That is why I have peer-reviewed sources to back up everything that I say. Non-biased peer-reviewed
sources. The thing is that there are peer-reviewed sources against that too, right? Like there are. I have them right in front of me, but it doesn't matter because it's not going to.
Share them.
It's not going to make a difference to you because you're going to come up with some excuse as to why it's not like
That's the beautiful thing about peer review.
et al. Like all of these, there's a lot of research out there that goes against what you're saying as well. Right, and so I think I just did, but you weren't listening. But you weren't listening. You were talking.
No, you said you just have them in front of you.
I do. I have them in front of me. But again, it doesn't matter because it's not going to change your mind, right? Because you're not ready for this discussion.
About my mind. This is
an ethical discussion about your personal consumption. And the thing is, like the complex problems that we have created as a society around hunting are not something that can be solved in one conversation. And again, you're conflating your personal with your professional, and that's just something that you're not able to separate, which is why you're not able to have this conversation with us. And I think you need to move on. I think you're just so used to having the last word because you think you're an expert in this, and I'm sure you are professionally an expert, but you're also biased because you believe that hunting is okay, and we don't take that stance. We take a holistic stance around the ethics of all of the practices, all the exploitation that humans participate in. And in a vegan world, we wouldn't need all of these solutions.
But
okay,
here's my problem.
Hold on.
I just
Alright,
think
we
just need to move on.
Yeah, we're gonna move on. Hunting, what was your name?
My TikTok is Hunting Appalachia.
No, I just mean like your name. I just wanted to know what your name was. I want to invite you to come back up another time.
Oh yeah, my name's Ethan.
Ethan, and where do you live on the East Coast? Because I'm in the middle of Pennsylvania.
West Virginia.
West Virginia, yeah. Okay, so we're not too far from each other. Yeah, come back up.
Quite a bit of work in Pennsylvania on salamander projects. So
that's cool. Yeah, give me a follow. Come back up another time. Send me the research that you have. I'd like to look at it. Okay.
Yep.
So
I'll send it to you.
I appreciate you coming up.
Still.
Yeah. Thanks. Bye.
I think he should talk to O. Do you know O?
Yeah.
He's in West. I think he's in West Virginia. No, he's in Arkansas, but I think he's from West Virginia. And he's very knowledgeable about hunting as well.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. It's just I think there's also like this whole. I didn't love his comment of like, oh, I wanted to talk to you.
Yeah.
It just sounds, hints of misogyny But I think it's also like the conflation between like your professional life, which is what his entire personality is based around his job. And I think for most of us it is, right? And I think even giving in a little bit into the ethical discussion around his personal life would basically bring down his entire personality. And I think that's just something he was not ready to do when he's not able to separate his professional choices or his professional life with his personal choices. And I can understand how that would be really, really difficult.
Yeah. People are scared to change, and it's changing can be hard for some people. Like, it's different. It's harder for some people than other people. And yeah, exactly. It's a lot of people feel like if their identity is being attacked. And a lot of it comes back to culture and things like that, like he was saying, but that doesn't justify what happens to the animals. Connor, I'm gonna bring Connor up next if he's still here. He jumped ahead of everybody. If you send a gift, you'll jump ahead of everybody in the list. There's a lot of people in the list now because that conversation went on for a while. Looks like he's not even here anymore. Probably going to go through multiple people here. Yeah, so like that conversation like kind of gets a little bit off track of of at least like most people. Like, most people aren't hunters. Most people aren't vegan. Most people aren't hunters. It's so like that conversation doesn't really relate to everyone. So I want to kind of get back to what we're here.
I wish you would have talked to him, Keith.
Yeah, Keith just requested. What's going on?
Oh, you're good. Yeah, usually the response for, like, I just steel man those arguments typically, which is like, let's pretend we got like every single like non-violent conservationist, on planet Earth, like, the greatest minds in that topic together in one room, and they ran through all the plausible, scenarios to try to alleviate, some wildlife management problem. And they're like, okay, so yeah, we introduced, contraceptives, we introduced, wild predators that, were intended for this ecosystem that had been eradicated by humans prior. We, managed vegetation, we managed habitat, we managed this, that, the other thing. We also got the world to go completely vegan, reducing the agricultural land space used by humans by 75%, increasing the carrying capacity of countless ecoregions. By doing that action, we did all this, right? We did all these actions together, and we're still finding it to be the case that the only option to manage this particular situation is through violence, right? All these greatest minds in nonviolent conservation got together, and they decided the only avenue, after like decades of trying out these nonviolent options, didn't resolve this issue. Well, at the heart of conservation is not consumption. So if you're going to argue that it's absolutely necessary to unalive these animals, that doesn't then facilitate the automatic statement that it's now justified to start consuming their corpses, right?
Well, I brought up that argument, Keith. I told them, it's like, why, if you're really adamant about hunting the animals, it's like you don't have to then take them and eat them. Like, you can leave them in the forest for the scavengers, for the worms, for the nutrients and then he had a whole other argument about how, like, oh, that would make the dependency of the scavengers on people. Like, it's just, yeah.
Well, no, I mean, even still after that, right? Even if you were to like deem, okay, we have to collect some of this meat and utilize it for humans. Well, yeah, we wouldn't give it to humans that have the option to consume plant-based otherwise. We would be feeding the meat that we like acquire to like basically donate to like wildlife rehabilitation centers or similar, where the animal themselves are entirely reliant on meat, right? They don't have another option. Like, that's where that would come into play. It wouldn't be for the personal consumption of someone else for their personal taste pleasure. Like, that's the whole point, is to move away from that directive where we're utilizing someone's body in unnecessary ways, especially. So like, it would be offered for like, yeah, ideally situations where the only option would be to care for this individual that's like entirely reliant on some amount of meat consumption, or alternatively, like, yeah, I guess like some populations of humans who, like, yeah, they have no way of being fed otherwise as well or something. But yeah, it, like the whole point of that sentiment is to not predicate the whole idea of consuming an animal for our own personal pleasure. Again, the whole concept is that consumption should not be the heart of conservation ever. Like that defies the very nature of conservation.
Yeah, and I personally, I think like nature sucks. Like we've removed ourselves from nature. Animals like are being killed in nature, and they're suffering in nature. Like I think we should be doing what we can to save as many animals as we can. Like reintroducing predators in there to like kill other animals and things like that. Like I don't really agree with that either. We should be trying to find other alternatives. And yeah, like more. Oh, an interesting thing that I've researched is that in wild areas, more animals, like a higher percentage of those animals, are dying than animals that die in like managed areas. Like, so it's kind of interesting. But Ethan, you can respond in the comments. We're gonna bring somebody else up next. Ray, are you here, Ray? Are you over 18?
Yeah, I'm 21.
You don't sound like you're 21. What year were you born?
2004.
2004. You ever thought about being vegan?
Yeah, I wanted to for a long time, but I'm pretty financially reliant on my parents, who do not like the vegan stuff, so I haven't been able to do that.
Living vegan is cheaper. You can save money. So do Animal Justice 21 with your parents. Get them to do it too.
I know that, but they don't care.
Yeah, that's what Animal Justice 21 is for. So, like, have you ever had any companion animals, dogs, cats, or any other animals?
Currently have a dog.
Yeah, you view your dog as part of the family?
Of course, yeah.
Right, like, they can be happy, they can be sad.
Of course.
Yeah, all the other animals are just like that too. So there's no reason to treat them any different than our companion animals, right?
Yeah, generally the main reason why I don't eat vegan food is because I just can't afford to buy anything that my parents don't buy. So,
yeah. So
everything I eat is whatever they buy. So
yeah, just like
because I can't, my job doesn't pay me enough for me to go get my own food.
If you went vegan and you told them like, hey, I'm gonna be vegan from now on, can you guys like buy me some beans and some other like cheaper food? Do you think that they would respect that? I mean, it's probably a lot of those things you already eat anyway. It's just like replacing a couple of different things.
They might, because they do occasionally cook some separate things for me, since I am autistic and have a ton of issues with various foods.
Yeah.
So there's a ton of stuff I already can't eat because my body just won't let me eat it. So it's possible they might do that, but I also have the issue where I am allergic to coconut oil, so every vegan food I would get every form of vegan meat I would get would have to have that vetted out.
Yeah, coconut oil is not generally good for you either. You should limit that. It's high in saturated fats. Like I don't eat that much coconut oil. Coconut oil is one of the main ingredients in a lot of the vegan cheeses, but like I said, you should probably like limit that anyway. So, but besides that, there's not a lot of coconut oil in a lot of other products. So try to eat whole plant foods. But like don't forget about like using animals for entertainment, for clothing, for testing. other things like that for like cosmetics and cleaning products and other things like that.
I get most of my clothes and stuff secondhand from like Goodwill, thrift stores.
Yeah, so like that's great, and try to get cruelty free things and vegan products whenever you can. So it relates more than just to food, right?
Yeah, I there's one thing though, which is that sometimes me and my family put out like we put out like poisons for a specific bird around here. It's called a starling, I think. It's an invasive species around here, and that's why folks end up putting it out.
Yeah, don't do that.
Because it apparently they like have been actively damaging the environment for other birds around here. So that's something that my folks end up doing, is just trying to get rid of like starlings and stuff.
Yeah, starlings are really cool birds. You know, they can you can actually talk to them, like, and they can talk back to you. They can learn to speak English and things like that. They can mimic people.
I personally like them, but it's something that my folks end up doing.
Yeah, so do Animal Justice 21 yourself. Go through it. Actually, it's a great time to join for anybody listening here. I just added like a onboarding tutorial, so when you sign up and you go and you open the page, it takes you through the site and shows you everything throughout the site. So it's really cool. You could do it for a little bit by yourself if you want, and then, or if you as you're doing it and if you see anything that you think your parents would like reflect on, bring it to their attention. Maybe you can get them to sign up and do it themselves too. But it just asks you some questions that makes you think about your relationship with animals. There's no wrong or right answers, right or wrong answers. And yeah, you just answer the questions for whatever day you're on, and it'll unlock the next day for tomorrow. So you just have to come back 21 days and do the whole 21 days there, and you really learn a lot.
Yeah, I'll just have to make sure that food. I'll just have to see if the foods have anything that I can't have, like coconut oil, as I mentioned, along with mushrooms, and I'm sensitive to soy.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. There's other things that you can eat in place of those. So just.
And I've heard that all of those are relatively common vegan foods. So.
Yeah, I generally recommend soy to most people. It's a complete protein. It's a pretty good substitute for eating other like animal-based proteins. It's minimally processed. It's got healthy fats. It's got other nutrients that you need. So if you can't have that, then it's a little bit harder, but there's other replacements for that too. So do a little bit of research. If you have to talk to a nutritionist or a dietitian, if you have allergies and things like that, I recommend talking to the dietitian. You can reach out to her on Animal Justice 21 on the resources page at the bottom. So yeah, she's ready, willing to help. Just got back from her vacation, so definitely reach out to her if you have any questions. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for coming up. Do you have anything else you want to say? I'm going to bring up somebody else next.
No.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks. Yeah, give me a follow and come back another time. Let me know how things are going. You go outside? I'm gonna let my dog out. Hamilton.
Hello?
Keith, are you over 18?
Yes.
Keith, do you want to talk to this person? I have to let my dog out. What are you doing to that pig? That person turned into a pig.
It's wild.
Aussie, not here anymore. Gonna go through a couple people. Bum, bum, bum. Oh wait, maybe that last person's
Use the back.
up.
That's a really nice bird, actually.
Hello.
Hello.
Are you're over 18?
Yeah. Yes. So my name is Emma, and I'm not vegan because one time, I ate my dog, and it was good. So.
That's strange.
And I
how
just feel like after you eat a pet, like there's no going back from that.
do you have any more dogs now?
No.
Good. Don't get any more dogs. Thanks. Bye. Fucking trolls. People, don't eat your dogs. Don't be like that person. Only get dogs from Elwood Dog Meat. I'm just kidding. ElwoodDogMeat.com. Go there and check it out. You can love dogs and eat them too.
It's definitely not satire.
A lot of these people are gone. Keep going through. Matt. I know. Hold on.
Hello.
Hello. You're over 18?
How's it going? Yeah, I am.
Okay, have you ever thought about being vegan?
I haven't necessarily thought about like switching, but I'm just curious, like,
Mhm.
what benefits does it have over me eating meat?
Uh,
Why should I
well,
choose to be vegan?
well, there's a lot. Keith, can you do this conversation while I take my dog out?
Yeah, it's fine.
I'll be
Yeah,
right
do you know
back.
what veganism is, though?
Yeah,
Right, what's
I mean,
your
my-
understanding of it?
my understanding is you guys don't eat any animal-based products. So what's an example? Like a vegetarian, they'd still drink milk, right? But you guys won't because it comes from the cow.
Do you think that it's just a dietary sentiment?
Oh no, I know. Like that's just where the dietary. Because when you say vegan, people think of they don't eat meat, but there's also that sense of I don't want to harm an animal.
Yeah, so veganism is more like simplistically here, it's just the ethical stance against the unnecessary exploitation of sentient beings as far as is possible and practicable. So, we're not trying to look at situations where there's no possible alternative or what have you, and someone's basically forced into a scenario of like exploiting an animal to survive or what have you. We're here to kind of like effectively discuss, hey, what is your justification for exploiting an animal for what would be likely deemed at this point for, just being like a personal taste pleasure, right? That's kind of what we're trying to get at, or for other pleasures as well, right? So exploiting an animal for fashion, so like visual pleasure, or exploiting an animal for entertainment, another visual pleasure, or other things that we could like look to, like cosmetics, hygiene products, etc. Does that all make sense?
Yeah, I understand. So it doesn't come from a nutritional like basis. Like you don't gain anything from switching to being vegan.
Well, veganism isn't a diet, right?
Right.
Someone, like, to go off of that definition, right? If someone was consuming animal products out of genuine necessity, then you could still like technically apply the vegan ethic to their stance because they're not.
Yeah, no, that's my biggest confusion about it. I was in this one guy's live, and I brought up that exact scenario of someone who's out there hunting, who's been like they have to hunt for their food to survive.
Right.
Is that not like because they're not out there gassing pigs?
Yeah,
they're not out there.
Literally no other option, but like they're also ethically like striving to do their best, right? Like they're in this predicament, but they're actively engaged with like trying to do their best and also trying to do better to avoid this exploitation as time progresses, right? Like they may currently have only the option of hunting, but they might try to like reach a point in their life where that's no longer a necessity, right? That's kind of like the idea is to keep striving for these options as well, not to just kind of like remain stagnant and just kind of like go, well, I guess I shouldn't try to like avoid this.
Yeah, well, because us humans are omnivores. We can eat whatever, but like that doesn't come from a sense of we just because we can eat whatever doesn't like. I don't know. This guy's point was just because we can eat whatever doesn't mean we
it's
should.
just a biological statement. It's not like a moral licensing thing. Like just because someone can do an action, like humans are also born with fists in the majority of cases. That doesn't mean it's like moral for me to just use my fists on someone's face just because like I have that biological ability to do so.
Right.
Or even if someone had like a biological drive to like want to punch someone or something, that wouldn't justify the action. So yeah, like really we're just again like looking at again these scenarios where you can avoid the exploitation of a sentient being. You have other possible and practical means to avoid it. What is the justification to engage with doing it at that point is the question.
I see. Yeah, well, I completely understand and I agree that like harming these animals unnecessarily is bad, and that's where the, like you said, the moral implications come into it, and like why people choose to be vegan. That would, I mean, personally, I still like to like get the protein and get the nutrients that I get from eating said animal products, but I do also see that it is messed up how we get these animal products. And if it was up to me, I'd rather go out and personally hunt for my food.
Right, why not just start, like at that point, if you're going out of your way to like, you know, go unalive an animal directly, you might as well go out of your way to like, you know, just produce your own vegetation or go out and forage for your own.
Yeah, and well, out at my grandparents' house, we have a huge garden, and we grow all kinds of cabbage, we grow mint even, we grow carrots, we grow all kinds of fruits and vegetables and stuff.
Yeah, you could just do more of this. You could do more of foraging. You know, you don't innately need to turn to unaliving an animal for your, you know, nutritional requirements and whatnot.
I see. I understand.
Yeah. So, yeah, like, do you think that there is like a good, you know, ethical argument to go out and exploit, you know, another sentient being when you do have other possible and practical means to avoid it?
If there is other like you're saying, yes, if you're able to go out and just eat some berries real quick to sustain your hunger, then yeah. But let's say, theoretically, we are out there hunting to survive, and winter has come. Not a lot of plants and stuff
grow out. We've gone through this, right?
That's just my biggest thing. I completely understand like your guys' point of view of harming the animal and stuff. But my biggest question was, where does that line get drawn for when it's necessity and survival?
It's baked into the definition of veganism, right? We're avoiding unnecessary exploitation as far as is possible and practicable. We're not trying to make like, you know, impossible situations somehow magically just possible out of thin air, right? Like, we advocate for making the changes and avenues to make it possible for those situations that are currently impossible. But, you know, the whole directive is to have, you know, to get aid or help for those impossible situations that could exist around the globe right now. We need more people to be like choosing a vegan prerogative in general, so that we can like have legislature and, you know, actual like active, like large scale activism to aid those kinds of quote unquote impossible situations that might exist currently. Because if no one, you know, in the general human sphere cares for even their own personal actions to change, then we're not going to be able to aid those other scenarios that fall outside of that very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the question would be just ultimately, you know, have you considered going vegan? And if not, what would be stopping you from considering at least trying it out? Because like the background link there, Animal Justice 21, is like a free resource for you to, basically just try out being plant-based and vegan for, you know, about 3 weeks, and, you know, getting aid and assistance with how to do that, what you need to do, yada, 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 so you don't have to feel like lost in the dark. So if that's any part of it, like you're a bit confused on how to do it and how to do it properly, they can age with that. But if you have like other follow-up questions, like let us know. But
Yeah, no, that was honestly my biggest thing, was like how you were saying, it's veganism isn't about just diet and just about like those impossible situations, but
yeah,
it's about what's going. Yeah, I understand, and I see your guys' morals and where you guys stand about being vegan and that whole not harming the animal and stuff.
yeah. So I mean, do you think that so there's a few options for you from here. I would encourage you to check out Animal Justice 21. I have it in the link tree in my bio. I also have a number of other documentaries and other things within there, so you can tap on mine and then tap on there to get to the link, or just type it into your browser, however you want to go about it. But I think that would probably be like a good step for you to look into this a little bit further from here, is like check out some documentaries on the topic. See if watching these things makes you kind of I don't know, have like a little bit of like a, all right, maybe I should try this and like give this a fair try or whatever. And then if you reach that conclusion, like that's what that link is there for. It's the Animal Justice 21 link.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good one.
You too.
All right, that was great. Thanks. Thank you, Keith.
Yeah, no, of course.
All right, let's see. We only have a couple of people now in the queue. Emily, are you over 18, Emily?
Yes.
Yes. How old are you?
Yeah. 18.
You are 18. What year were you born?
18 years ago.
18 years ago. You ever thought about being vegan?
Yeah. Because my granddad was vegan, but I don't want to.
Why not? Like, what's stopping you?
Well, I'm like a very picky eater. I don't like a lot of like textures of vegetables or plant-based foods. So.
There's tens of thousands of plants that you can eat. I'm sure you can find some that you enjoy eating. What about other aspects?
Some, but...
What about like clothing and animal testing and using animals for entertainment and things like that? How does that make you feel?
I don't support animal testing. I try to make like every brand I use like cruelty-free, but like.
So, can we ever get Emily? What year were you born in?
Whatever year was 18 years ago.
Okay,
Yeah.
So you're not 18.
Yeah, I know. We're just gonna move on. We're gonna move on. Check out Animal Justice 21 if you want. But you sound like a open-minded person. Juan. The Juan and only.
Oh, I love meat.
Fail.
Hey, what's up?
What's up? You're over 21?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
You're over 20, or you're over 18?
Oh, yeah, I'm 24.
24? Okay, awesome. Do you consider yourself an open-minded person?
Yeah.
Why are you not vegan?
Because I haven't really heard a good enough argument for me to be vegan. I have became pescatarian, but vegan does not I haven't heard a good enough argument to get me all the way there. You know what I'm saying?
Why are you pescatarian?
Because my moral framework, it's like I wouldn't harm an animal that's has the capacity for empathy that relates to like a dog or a small child or something like that.
Well, what about fish though? Fish are sentient. They can feel pain. They choose to not feel pain, right? They choose to not suffer, and they want to continue to live.
I think there's a difference between sentience and empathy. You know what I'm saying? I feel like even though some birds and fish have intelligence, they're smart, they're not really like empathetic. Or I know only mammals really have that part of their brain that's like, for community and for like empathy.
What if you found out you were wrong with that, or are you open to learning more about that?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a YouTube video. It's called How Conscious. I think it's called How Conscious is a Fish. You should go watch that. It really opened my mind a lot. They go through different studies and like tests with the animals there. But yeah, it does sound like you're an open-minded person.
Practice. I'm sorry. Sorry. What you said?
It does sound like you're an open-minded person.
Well, yeah. Like, do fish and like some reptiles and birds, do they practice like communal thinking, like utilitarianism? Like, do they take care of their young? Are they like destroy? Like elephants have like, cemeteries and things like that. I feel like everything in moral is like subjective.
Why would that really matter? Like, so like, let's pretend I have an animal in front of me and they can't do this action you're talking about. Like, is it okay for me to like, just, I don't know, stomp on them with my foot for fun?
Not necessarily for fun, but for nutrition, like, because
that's
plants and fungus are also intelligent, just in another way.
That's the follow-up question. So like, if that's not okay to do it for a trivial reason, like a personal pleasure, if it's the case that you can obtain your nutrition without the exploitation of a sentient being, right? That means that the only reason left behind would be for like some kind of like trivial reason, whether that's for taste pleasure or mild inconvenience or like some like, appeal to tradition or something like that.
Right. That's what brings up my next question. So like, we know that plants and fungus are intelligent, like they have cellular intelligence.
They're not sentient.
But like, what gives sentience more important than
sentience is typically predicated on having a central nervous system and a brain.
Yeah,
like you have a central processing unit of some kind.
What gives one intelligence more importance than the other?
It's not the intelligence, it's the sentience.
Why is that like important?
Sentience is like the ability to go through valent states, like you can experience like an actual
Why does that have moral weight?
Yeah, because you're actually going through a psychophysical experience. Like you can go through valent states, like negative experiences, neutral experiences, positive experiences. Like like what gives way to something being negative or positive for a particular individual.
Plants and fungi can go through those things too. Like,
so wait, they're sentient?
To an extent, like for example, like if you take
okay. Can you point to an empirical source for me that points to any plant or any fungi on planet Earth being sentient or conscious?
Well, not really, but like as
right.
To
So
go
the
back
empirics
to
don't support this claim, right?
Well, if you let me give you my example. So
well, your example should be supported by if you're making an empirical statement right now. So like I could point to you in the direction of say like the study called Debunking a Myth, Plant Consciousness, which goes over the last 50 plus years, even as far back as like 200 plus years ago when we get into the, Charles Darwin's book, The Movement of Plants, and, basically looking at all that data and analyzing it, whether we find it to be the case that like plants are or are not sentient. And
when you cut off a tree,
the entirety of that resource shows that they're not sentient.
When you cut off a tree and all the trees around the root system share nutrients with that tree,
you're confusing communication capacities, right? You're confusing communication capacities with sentience. Like my phone is communicating with yours right now.
But why is it doing that?
Yeah, because of signals.
And how is that different from sentience?
Because that's not an experience. Like the passing of like information down a pipeline doesn't necessitate that information is being processed and turned into a psychophysical experience for the individual. It just means information was projected from one point to another point. It doesn't mean that information was processed into an experience. and that they're actually going through a psychophysical, phenomenal experience.
Define psychophysical.
Yeah, like an actual like psychological experience. Like you're actually engaged with like a mental process in your mind. Like you're like going through like a negative action, like almost like the thought like this is a negative thing. I need to get away from this right now.
So, like, do you think animals, like, like birds or bugs or things like that, do you think that they have like a capacity to understand their mortality?
I don't think there's humans that understand their own mortality.
Right, but
I wouldn't say that it's okay to oppress those humans that can't understand their own
mortality.
But you
could say, like, to an extent they can, like, humans, dogs, cats, mammals, rats, all of them, even some birds, like, they have like the capacity of concept, like they can understand certain concepts, even if it's at a very primitive level, right?
Sure, again, but there's going to be even in the scale of, again, like humans, right? Like there can be humans born with certain conditions that make it so that that individual can't understand these kinds of concepts you're talking about. But I wouldn't deem it as morally justifiable to needlessly oppress or exploit that human, especially when we have other practical or possible solutions that allow us to avoid it.
It's not morally justifiable because for our community to function and work, we need that to be the case.
So wait,
because we hold humans to a higher standard than other animals.
This hypothetical human was living as a hermit. If this hypothetical human was living as a hermit in the woods with no friends or family or acquaintances, it would be okay for me to go up and find them and then needlessly oppress and exploit them?
No.
Okay, then it has nothing to do with community then.
No, I'm saying for like the human race as a community, for that to work, that needs to be the case.
Well,
because
again, this doesn't impact the human. This doesn't impact the human race or the human community. If we find a hermit living in the woods, this is a sole individual living in the woods with no interaction with the society whatsoever.
I would never say that because I have this completely subjective notion, but for me, like humans are above any other animal or plant.
Sure, and just because you hold that stance, that doesn't then automatically lead to the stance that it's now permissible to now needlessly oppress and exploit non-human animals. Like, I might have higher preference for my mother over your mother, but in no way, shape, or form does that give onus for me to now needlessly oppress and exploit your mother, right?
Yes, but I'm saying
that's the whole point, right? If we just run that same questioning downward from there, like basically we're ultimately left with like the question of like what's the morally relevant trait difference between species A and species B that would morally justify needlessly oppressing and exploiting species A but not species B.
I'm not trying to make a moral argument that it's okay to do that. What I'm trying to get at is that oppression? Like, are you oppressing, like by consuming fish, by consuming shrimp, like farm fish, whatever, is that oppression? Because like, do the fish have a concept of that?
There's humans that don't. There's humans again that can be on such low grade intelligence that they don't understand their own oppression happening to them. That doesn't mean that it's now justified. Oppression is going to also be like something that needs to be understood from the stance of the oppressor, not just the oppressed. The oppressor, more than the oppressed, has a greater onus to make changes to avoid that oppression.
Okay. I mean, that's a very good point. However, my position really stands more in the fact that like, like, is that our definition of oppression and anything is very subjective, right?
I mean, what's your definition of oppression then? You're saying it's, I mean, that won't really circumnavigate the issue. Like, what I'm talking about when I'm talking about oppression and exploitation. I mean, you can give me your definition of what oppression is, and more likely than not, it probably fairly neatly fits into the current definition for the most part, and would still apply.
For me, for something to be exploitative and oppressive, the person or the victim, whatever species it is, like, it would have to have like some basic level of like, empathy, right?
Wait, in order for me to, like, in order for it to be considered oppression or exploitation of another, that person has to, or that individual has to, that individual has to exhibit like empathy.
Like some basic level of it.
So wait, if I'm dealing with like, I don't know, like a non-violent person with psychopathy or a psychopath who can't elicit or give empathy ever, right? But they're not harming anyone, they're not exploiting anyone themselves. Is it now okay, or like it wouldn't be called oppression if I started like, I don't know, enslaving them?
Well, that's different because for humans, for us to be a functional society, we have to hold humans at a higher standard. Like,
well, again, just in a vacuum, right?
Yeah, but I'm saying like,
just
I would never like agree to that because.
But that's the point. Just test this in a vacuum. If this person was living in a vacuum, like that's the point of the question with the hermit, right? So we have an individual who's like effectively in a vacuum, not going to be impacted by society whatsoever. Is it now okay for me to like, do whatever I want to their body or enslave them or do other things to them for my own personal enjoyment at that point?
It's not.
Like, assuming there's no impact on the human civilization or the human race as a whole, this is just about the actualized state of that individual, just them by themselves. Is it okay to do it?
No.
Because they can't exhibit empathy? Then again, it has nothing to do with like human population.
Well, like as a human being, I would never say that, and I would never consider that that's okay. And I don't think it's okay to do it like to other beings, in that manner. But if you were like an alien and you like fed on human beings, it might be like morally like justified for them to do it.
Well, we can test that, right, too. Like, we can say that alien race, like, they're sitting around and, like, they just got done with, like, oppressing and exploiting a bunch of humans. And Alien 1 talks to Alien 2, and Alien 1 is like, dude, we should probably stop doing this. Like, these guys are, like, sentient individuals. They can, like, actually experience this negative, like, stuff that we're doing to them, whether it's enslaving them or, like, slashing their throats open, to needlessly consume their bodies. Like, dude, we could go like do something else. We don't need to be doing this. Like, we're just doing it for our own personal enjoyment. Do you think that, Alien 1 is more rational than Alien 2?
It would have to depend on their level of like morality and what they accept as a society. On my personal.
So wait, morality is dictated by society?
Yeah, that's always been the case.
So slavery was a good thing in 1688?
No.
Then slavery has always been wrong, right? Regardless of whether society was dictating it as quote unquote acceptable.
Yeah.
Right. So then clearly it's not based on just
to them it wasn't.
Society.
To them it wasn't. Like, there are things we do
now. That's what I'm saying. Just because to the oppressors it wasn't a bad thing. Do you think it was a bad thing for the oppressed?
Of course.
Then that's the more important thing to focus in on, not the sentiment that these people didn't feel bad about what they were doing. Like, and that means nothing. The more important thing to focus on would be like, wow, there was millions of individuals needlessly oppressed and exploited, and they were put through these negative states, not through any kind of even like deemed necessity. It was just for their own, benefit and amusement and all these other trivial things that could have been avoided. Like, that's what we should be focusing on, is the victims.
So let's say that this alien species, right? They value intelligence. Like, we can talk about like cordyceps, right? A cordyceps, you can put it on a field. There was an experiment done. They put oats in all the stations where New York would be in a map. And then the cordyceps found the most effective way. We wrote like what looks to be New York.
I mean, that was in
Found a more
cordyceps, that was
efficient
slime,
way.
that was slime mold, and it's following the same directive as I could show water is intelligent by putting it on top of a hill. Water will find the most efficient, flow rate to find its way to the lowest peak. That doesn't mean that the fungus is actively thinking about it. It's just that these kinds of natural processes are efficient at what they do. That doesn't mean that they're actively thinking or having an experience.
What if we find in the future that these aliens hold that type of intelligence?
Let's try a different angle on this, right? Would you say that, let's imagine, hypothetically for a moment, that if someone following a plant-based diet would actually cause the least amount of harm to not only humans, but also non-human animals, as well as plants, as well as fungi, would you say that this, would now be the best route to take at that point if it's causing the least amount of harm to all four of those categories that you seem to care about?
Yeah.
Okay.
That would seem like the most.
Then yeah, that is veganism, right? So we currently use 1.24 billion hectares of cropland on planet Earth. About 723 million hectares goes to human feed, and 502 goes to animal agriculture feed. And then we also use 2.89 billion hectares of pasture land, which is areas where we clear cut it from native ecosystems. For example, 80 to 90% of the deforestation that's taken place in the Amazon rainforest has been for animal agriculture. So if we were to transition to a plant-based world, we would only need about 1 billion hectares of cropland, and that's it. We don't need pasture land, and 1 billion is less than 1.24.
Where would you get the fertilizer for those plants?
Yeah, fertilizer can be done through composting, green manure, cover crops, etc. You just need nitrogen fixating plants. You need the ability to recycle phosphorus and the other required nutrients, and that's all obtainable with veganic agriculture. Manure, for example, only makes up about 10% of all fertilizers globally. Manure is not that big of a fertilizer, quite honestly.
What about fish farms and bug farms?
Yeah, we definitely don't need a fish farm.
I eat bugs too.
We definitely don't need fish farms. Again, the point, and fish honestly isn't that much of even when you include all wild caught fish as well. And I know this seems wild, but you can actually look this up. It's in Our World in Data, and it's pulled from the study Reducing Food's Environmental Impact Through Producers to Consumers. It's a 2018 study where they looked at close to 38,000 farms across 119 countries to extrapolate that data. And really, marine animals and whatnot make up about 1 to 2% of the global calorie supply. So ultimately, you're not putting a big dent in the calorie supply by consuming fish or anything like that anyways. But farmed fish are farmed using actually some amount of things like soy and plant material. They do feed those fish plant material to get them big and fat faster. It's not they're just subsisting off of the waters that are around them. They are also subsisting off of wild caught fish, because some of the fish that they raise in fish farms are carnivorous. So they're literally in some cases farming 5 pounds of wild caught fish, quote unquote lesser quality fish, so that they can feed that fish to salmon or whatever, so they can now have quote unquote higher quality fish. So 5 pounds of wild caught fish to raise 1 pound of farmed fish. So you're always this is just how the trophic scale operates. The lower you are in the trophic scale, the more efficient it is. So the only primary producers on the trophic scale are going to be fungi, bacteria, and plants. So when that's the case, and we want to be as frugal and efficient as possible with feeding the world, and use the least amount of land, the least amount of resources, cause the least amount of environmental degradation, etc. The best way and avenue for that is a plant-based world, because we would, again, reduce agricultural land use by about 75%. We would reduce greenhouse gas emissions from the food sector by 50%, eutrophication and acidification, which are basically runoff materials that enter our waterways and streams, by about 50% each. And then we would reduce freshwater scarcity by about 20%.
So like by every environmental metric, which also is then going to extrapolate to the health of, you know, plants and fungi, and, you know, on top of that, wildlife, you know, animals and humans as well. Like, you know, on the human scale, we're causing environmental damage that affects humans. We're also the majority of humans who are doing slaughterhouse work end up with like situations like PTSD and trauma and anxiety.
There's also the antibiotic resistance issue as well.
Exactly. There's countless reasons on top of the ethical reason that we should just recognize that these are sentient beings that shouldn't be exploited. But even outside of that, if we were to like get into like quote unquote believing, you know, again without empirical evidence, because there's no empirical evidence you're going to really find out there that support the claim that, you know, plants and fungi are sentient. But even if we just hypothetically extrapolated that they are, well, we would still want to cause the least amount of harm to all of those groups at that point. And the only avenue that we have that causes the least amount to all of them would still be a vegan world.
Interesting. Yeah, like that's a very good point. I haven't considered that before.
Yeah. So I mean, if this is like something of consideration, like you're like, oh wow, I want to cause like the least amount of harm to all of these groups, then, you know, you should be considering altering your, you know, your personal diet and clothing, cosmetics, hygiene products, you know, you name it.
So how do you feel about human testing? I feel like this is kind of a touchy subject. It's kind of interesting.
Human testing? What do you mean?
I mean animal testing. Human testing as well, right? Animal testing.
Yeah, I think animal testing is largely inefficient and ineffective. Some of like the greatest researchers that we have alive right now, like the head of UCLA biology department and a few others, all agree that new approach methods, NAMs, are the best route we have going forward for getting drug trials pushed through. So this would be like using things like in vitro testing, organ on a chip testing, organelle system testing, multicellular panel testing, etc. Like moving away from testing on animals, because, you know, one, testing on animals is very slow, it's very inefficient, it's very expensive, it's also very inaccurate a lot of the times, or it produces both a lot of false positives and false negatives, because as much as we have some similarities between humans and rats or whatever, we're not exactly the same. So like when we test within the model of a rat, we end up, you know, sometimes getting both false positives where like, oh shoot, like this is too dangerous, we can't do it in a human, and they hold off on the drug, they push it off to the side. But then through other mechanisms, through those NAMs approaches, they then test it again. They're like, maybe there actually is some, you know, plausibility that this will work in a human, it seems, so maybe we should try it and see what happens, and then it ends up working. But
what are the limitations of those type of testing? Because I'm sure there has to be like some kind of factor, or like a living organism.
You're always going to be forced into a scenario where microdosing the thing that you're trying to test in a human is the best option when you finally want to determine if it works in a human, because you can arrive at relative safety protocols with NAM measures. You don't need to go to animal testing. And animal testing, again, you know, the efficacy rate basically is anywhere between 91 to 96% failure rate. So like when we test it in an animal, the amount of times it ends up failing in the human trials is 91 to 96%. And it's even higher in specified things like, you know, drugs for Alzheimer's. That's 99.6% failure rate. Like we're talking about like a massive waste of time, effort, money, etc. And that's why, you know, the greatest minds when it comes to testing new new drugs and new things that we're trying to, you know, have available for humans, most of them want to do away with animal testing for the most part.
But there is always, like for example, like with enzyme kinematics, right? Those are very like dose dependent. Like there's a lot of times where like, you know, the smaller the dose, more deadly it is, or the opposite. You know, like there's a lot of paradoxical, you know, medications or just chemical treatments, where like, you know, the dosage is like opposite to what it is.
Well, again, that's my point. You're always going to be dealing with a potential like downside or negative or unforeseen component within the drug that you're testing. Like, again, like I can have like a drug that appears to be safe when tested in like an animal, and then as soon as we move it to a human, we're like, oh crap, this is problematic. This is like shooting up rates of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that like animal testing is like, you know, again, like the end all be all of determining if something is safe.
I agree.
One direction.
Like, I think that it should be greatly reduced because, you know, I didn't really realize that it was more effective to do like NAMs. I'll definitely look into it. I knew about NAMs, but I didn't know it was, you know, that effective.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, as a gist though, on the other things though, like, because like this one can be a tricky topic. People get like very caught up in it, and it can feel like quote unquote necessary to do these things if it's like, oh, we have no other option or whatever, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Like again, outside of this, you know, for your own person, because like I'm sure you're probably not like, maybe you are, but I don't think you're like working in like a lab facility where you're
I am.
You are testing on it.
Yes,
Okay.
I am.
That's unfortunate. Well, yeah, I would consider like, yeah, making directive changes or looking into that further, because yeah, you should, you know, strive to move away from that. But outside of like this, in your own personal daily life, would you say that you should like be engaged with needlessly oppressing and exploiting animals? You know, like just for like food, clothing, cosmetics.
No,
hygiene
definitely
products?
not clothing or cosmetics.
Okay.
And then for food, you know, like, I'll agree, you have made some good points, some stuff that I haven't considered. So I will put the decision under consideration.
Okay. Well, there's the link on screen. It's very helpful for just kind of like if you're new to like considering plant-based options and, you know, how to be vegan and yada yada yada. Like Animal Justice 21 will help you with all that stuff.
Well, I am very well versed in like plant alternatives because I am a pescatarian. Like, you can't just eat fish your whole life. Like, that's pretty restricted.
Yeah. But yeah, in case you're like, you know, if you ever do feel lost, it's a very helpful resource. It's also a good thing, just kind of like, I don't know, put like a little tiny bit of pressure on yourself to be like, okay, I'm gonna like, you know, because they tried to do it as like a quote unquote challenge, if you will, like take like a vegan challenge for essentially 3 weeks, because, you know, why it's called that is we know through human, you know, standard human psychology, it takes about 3 weeks mindfully engaging with, with something
to create a new habit.
Yeah, make a new habit or break one. So, you know, I would just encourage you to try to do that, you know, for the full duration, and then see where you feel after that. But yeah, you know, there's more, you know, studies and resources and information and whatnot in the link tree in my bio as well as the link for Animal Justice. So you can check that out, check out some of the documentaries, and then, you know, just go from there.
Okay. Well, it was real.
Yeah, of course. All right. Well, have a good one.
Thanks for coming up.
Of course.
And I want to say something about animal testing. Later this year in New York, there's a march for abolishing animal testing. It's a 200-mile march. It starts in Albany, and it's going all the way to Marshall Bioresources. They breed the most animals in the U.S. for animal testing. It's basically the one large breeder for animal testing, and even for other things too. If you want to join, if you want to support, you can go to marchforanimals.org. I'm going to be leading a team there through the march. So if you want to come and you want to join any point of the march, you can come for a day, you can go for the whole 2 weeks. If you want to be on my team, you can put my name down. And yeah, join, support. It's happening in the second half of September. So definitely go check that out, marchforanimals.org. It's, yeah, the second half is like the 14th to the 28th, I'm pretty sure, are the dates. But yeah, definitely go check that out. It's gonna be you're gonna hear about it a lot later this year for sure. It's gonna be a really big event. There's supposed to be like thousands of people joining total throughout the whole 2 weeks. So
nice. Yeah, I feel like that's like one of those animal rights things that gets
a fair amount of traction just because of like, you know, especially things like the beagle testing and whatnot, that people, all the dog lovers that, you know, aren't innately vegan, you know, will jump. I mean, that it's still a good thing that they're joining, but it is always a little silly to have, you know, the stance that I think some of those people maybe might think that like some animal testing is okay versus just thinking like beagle testing is wrong or something like that.
Yeah, it's a good way to get people to think about it more. So like I was actually at Ridgeland. I was there for the second event, and I met dozens of people that were not vegan, but like traveled there from all over the country and were like very supportive, and they were all pretty open-minded about it. And there was a lot of like vegans that were there that obviously that are focused on the animals, and they gave some speeches and things like that, and it got a lot of people thinking about it. So yeah, it was definitely, you know, a big step for a lot of people to really think about some things that they never really thought about before. So yeah, that's why I'm gonna go lead a team, and I'm gonna be like promoting animal justice. Now I have like a really good tool I could share with people that are like curious about that. So I'm excited to go and do the best I can to help these animals.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So let's bring up the next person. I want to try to make the conversations a little bit shorter, so we can go through some of the guests more. A lot of people are going to request, but they're not going to stay that long. If you guys want to jump up to the top of the list, send like a little gift or something like that. It bumps you up in front of everybody else. I'm going to go through a couple of these people here. Yeah, and like eating fish, like a pescatarian, you're exploiting a really high number of animals. So people think that they're doing like a good thing by, you know, cutting out other animal products, but in reality, to these animals, like a pescatarian is really exploiting a pretty high number. Most animals that are exploited are fish and different sea life. And yeah, it's completely unnecessary. Anything that you're getting from fish, you can get from plants. So definitely, and you've already done most of the work there, swapping things out with your diet. So just go for a full plant-based diet at that point. It's actually like super easy to just choose something else instead of fish. There's even plant-based fish options that are like really close, like any alternative to anything. Like they're so good now. Like some of them might be a little bit more expensive, but if you have the money and you find the right products, like you won't be able to tell the difference. I don't know if this guy's coming up. No. Okay, next. James. Are you 18, James?
Hello.
Hello. You're an adult?
I'm just here to say I love eat meat. Nothing wrong with it.
Did you just take a picture?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Do you have anything else to say?
No, I love meat. We all eat meat.
You ever thought about being vegan though?
Never.
Are you willing to think about it and learn more about it?
Never.
No? Alright. Well, thanks for coming up and just spewing some nonsense. We're going to move on to the next person. Look at that cat. Look at that cat. That's funny.
Hello.
You're over 18, you're an adult?
Yeah.
You ever thought about being vegan before?
I have.
Yeah, so what's stopping you?
I did at one point, and it was just not the best. I didn't really enjoy it much.
Okay, so like what? Do you mean like taste wise? That's what most people say.
Yeah,
like,
just taste, and I didn't feel the best
yeah,
during that time.
yeah, yeah. So like what Vegan Bully has said here, veganism is not a diet, right? You do understand that?
Yeah.
So if you could get the same taste that you can, right? What would stop you from being vegan? Like, what about other aspects of your life, like clothing, entertainment, testing on animals? Are you conscious when you consume different products, that aren't food?
Sometimes yes, but other times not as much.
Right.
But I have a question for you.
Yeah. What
do
is it?
Do you have like pets?
Yeah. I mean, I care for a bunch of dogs, and there's a cat here too. They're not pets. They're companions, and they were some of them were adopted from youth from being euthanized. We adopted them before they're like basically right before they were going to be euthanized, and rehoming them. So I have a little rescue here, a little dog sanctuary, and the cat that's here just showed up here one day. I don't know where. Like, I didn't go out and buy animals from a breeder, right?
Right. Are you one of the vegans who believes that animals shouldn't be eaten, and that's just it, or they shouldn't be kept captive in like the buildings and all that stuff?
It's about exploitation. So animals shouldn't be exploited for our benefit at their detriment. Does that make sense?
But isn't that what pets are? We keep them in our homes for our entertainment. They aren't allowed to go wherever they want in the world when we can.
I wouldn't say that they're...
If you believe in what you said you believe in, shouldn't you let them free into the wild so they can
no, because
do what they want?
that wouldn't be in the best interest of the animal, right? So the dogs that I have here, I do the best that I can to make all the decisions for the dogs and the cat in their best interest.
Okay.
So there are some people that buy pets and they use them for entertainment, or I would say that's kind of exploiting them. Sure. And I'm not an advocate for like ethical breeding of pets, whatever that would be. Like, I don't think that's really a thing. We shouldn't be breeding pets. But I do believe we should be taking care of the animals that are here now, and advocating for stopping like the puppy mills and breeding animals. So no matter if they're our companions or in a farm. Does that make sense?
That answers what I've just asked. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's all I really had to say.
You seem like a open-minded person, so yeah, check out Animal Justice 21 if you want to learn more about veganism, why you should be vegan. Okay?
Alright.
Thanks. We're gonna move on. And is that a dog? This guy's gone. I like to see people that have animals in their profile pictures. It's just interesting to me to see what they're gonna say. Are you an adult?
What was that?
Are you an adult?
Adult.
Are you over 18? That's what I'm asking. I can't really hear you.
No, I'm not an adult.
Oh, okay. Well, sorry, you got to be over 18 to come up here. So you can put your questions in the comments if you want, but I got to drop you down. Thanks, Ben. Jack is next. You aren't the same Jack that was here yesterday, right?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, what's up? You're an adult, right? You're over 18.
Yes. June 1st, 2008.
Great. Have you ever thought about being vegan before?
So, I mean, I have thought about quite extensively about the ethical considerations of being vegan, but I would like to understand why you are vegan.
There's a lot of reasons why.
Okay.
You can,
so the main reason why I am not vegan is
yeah.
because I don't see how under any valid moral framework why, or especially under mine, why animals have definitive moral standing. Just as humans would, or just as really anyone would.
Yeah, think about relationships that you've had with other animals. Have you had any companion animals?
Well, sure, but that doesn't mean that I believe that they're on the same level as humans.
That's fine. They don't have to be the same level as humans. You just have to not want to devalue them to the point where we think that it's okay to exploit them. Right?
Okay. Why do you think that animals have sufficient moral rights?
Well, they care about what happens to themselves.
So?
Would you agree?
Yes, animals do care about what happens to themselves. Why does that give them more rights?
Well, think about it like if you were in their position and somebody was oppressing you or exploiting you.
Well, okay, what does that have to do with any... Okay, that doesn't have to do with moral rights. So, just because someone experiences suffering doesn't mean necessarily that they... So, why would you say that gives them a moral right, though? Why do they have moral value? It's a pretty simple question.
Because exploiting them is completely unnecessary, so why would we not respect that?
Okay, that's again does not answer the question. It's not why would we not give them rights. If you say animals have rights, you have to justify that, not why would they not have rights. That's not a justification.
It sounds like you just want to debate. That's not why I'm doing these lives.
Yeah, so if we're gonna have a conversation, I like to have conversations about this and talk about moral skepticism because it gets people to intrinsically think about the very fundamentals of what gives people value. And if we do that, we come together more as a society, and we come together more as, and it helps minimize cognitive dissonance and causes us to actually think deeply about our things. That's why I'm doing this, and I think that you want us to do the same thing. I think you want us to have, deep conversations about our moral beliefs and just to try and come to conclusions and solutions. So I think that...
So why are you not vegan? It sounds like you are kind of on the right path. So what's holding you back?
I am personally not vegan because it does not fall within my moral because I don't believe that animals have sufficient rights that so much that it's outside of my control. All right. Let me reset.
Animals are being exploited for you, though, when you make decisions. Where you have alternatives, you don't have to support those industries and the exploitation, right?
So what I was trying to say is, I don't think that animals have sufficient moral rights, that so much so that it causes me to have an inherent perfect moral duty to cause for me, however small my support is to these industries, to be completely morally impermissible. I don't think that they have so much rights that it's not just that's not just like I have a moral obligation to, acknowledge that it's wrong, but I have a inherent moral obligation to not even support them in these industries in the small ways that I can.
Yeah, but you're not really explaining why, though.
Okay, well then I can dive deeper into that. Basically, I don't think that animals aren't as rational as us. Animals aren't as...
What does that matter?
Yeah, sure. So they are not... So my intuition says that animals aren't as valuable as us because they are just simply not as high.
Can I ask one thing, please?
Yeah, you know what? I'll hop off if he's not trying to do it.
What about kicking a dog or punching cats, punching horses? That's all okay by your logic.
Yeah, so it would be more like tapping a dog because of the whole point of what I'm trying to say.
What do you mean by tapping? Tapping is fine, but kicking is wrong.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. Like if you tap an animal, that's like not a big offense, but kicking an animal is because. Why? because kicking an animal is you forcefully taking something out on an animal. So even if they have, like half of the rights, a quarter of the rights, as much as humans do, they still aren't. That's still you intervening and causing for that action. Basically, so what the point I was trying to say is, I don't, under my moral view, right? I don't value animals so much so that the small amount
they deserve to live.
No, because I don't kill animals.
Of course you do.
Whoa.
You demand it.
I support industries. No, I support industries that kill
If you eat
animals.
meat, you demand it. Yes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
for sure. But
That's what you do.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is, my support toward these industries, in the grand scheme of things, is so small that it's not me killing them. It's such a small contribution that there's no moral system that I've seen that's morally valid that causes that to be morally impermissible.
Are you in the U.S.?
Yeah, but the fact that 7 billion people are having that kind of mindset, that makes it a problem.
Okay, sure. So why don't
everyone
you
has to change?
So why don't you quantify the impact of 6.9999999 billion people, one less with me?
It is not a math problem. It's an ethical
problem. It is a math problem. It is a math problem. Why don't you quantify the impact of, if I today started being vegan and stopped supporting animal
My
killing
neighbor
industries?
beats up his wife.
That's
and
terrible.
I cannot
What's that
stop
do with
him.
anything?
And I cannot stop him, but it doesn't mean that I want to join in.
That is so apples and oranges that has nothing to do with the thing. It would more like, what?
Jack, are you in the U.S.?
Yes, I am in the U.S.
I just put a link in the comments there that you can see your impact. Anywhere all over the world, you can see your impact. On what on average, how people exploit animals for everything, for food, for clothing, for entertainment. It's around 240 animals on average per person per year in the U.S. Do you think that's a small number? 200, like, imagine 240 animals in front of you right now. That's what you're responsible for.
Okay.
In 1 year.
Yeah.
It can
honestly,
be tens of thousands of animals in a lifetime. When you don't have to.
Oh yeah, no, I don't have to. That's true. I still don't see. Yeah, I just still don't see that animals have sufficient moral rights so much that we can't, take a position in domination of them.
That is the same position that humans have used against other humans throughout history. Very, very dangerous type of mindset to have. So, yeah, we're going to move on to the next person here. Actually, we don't have anybody else that's requesting up right now. So if you're not vegan and you want to have a conversation, request to come up. I have about 30 minutes left. We'll keep streaming for, and then so let's have a couple more short conversations before I have to go. Looks like somebody is requesting up. Goat. Is that a puppy in your picture?
Hello?
Hi, you're over 18,
Yeah.
right? Yep.
Yes, I'm over 18.
Have you ever thought about being vegan?
No, but I am here to talk about a bit more of the animal industry, industrial wise. If you have any questions about that, I can
Are you a
give some
farmer?
information on it. No, I am a animal handler in an industrial slaughterhouse.
Interesting. Why did you choose that job?
Well, to be quite fair, it's the only place that would really take an unskilled laborer and actually train them.
I mean, there's a lot of other industries that will take, entry positions.
Well, there is that too, but the entire town I live in is based around based around foodstuffs.
Yeah.
There's Tyson.
Mm-hmm.
Then there is other. Then there's Tyson. There's a chicken plant in town. Then there's beef. Then there's pork, some beef. It's literally all based around animal products.
Right. Yeah, that's unfortunate. There's a town near me that does the same thing at the turkey slaughterhouse. It's like the only large employer in the whole town. So like half of the town works there. Um, but what do you think? What do you think about animals? Like, you had relationships with any animals before? Would you agree that they're individuals and they have feelings, basically?
I would say they have feelings, but like
Yeah.
working in that profession, you have to get, how do I put it? You have to massively dehumanize the animal to even work in that profession.
Right. Yeah. You
I do.
you desensitize yourself to what you're doing to these animals, right?
Yeah, I'm a young guy, and like I don't want to say that like I'm completely desensitized, but I am.
Yeah. 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 Unfortunately, that's what happens. Do you have you heard that there's higher rates of like domestic violence and drug abuse and things like that with people that work in slaughterhouses, as well
I
as
have actually.
yeah. Do you know people that you work with that like are kind of like violent or um, don't really respect themselves that much, that are doing like, they drink every day or they're using like other drugs, things like that? Like, do you know that?
Not like surface level, like I don't know them that
Yeah.
deep personally if they do, but like I wouldn't doubt if people I work with in my area do that.
Yeah. What about also human injuries? Like, do people like cut their fingers off or like,
So like I don't work really with knives, but I work with the animals when they're still alive.
Right.
So,
I understand. That's like a different section.
Yeah. I will. So like from my experience, we will unload and bring the animals when they come in. We'll
Yeah.
serialize them with the tattoo.
Right.
But there is human injury to it. Like it's pretty bad when it comes to injuries. I mean, I almost got my knee blown out last week from it.
Yeah, that
there's
industry's got
not-
one of the highest rates of workplace injuries.
Yeah, and I work at a pork plant specifically.
Pigs, you mean?
Yeah.
Right. So, like, what's stopping you from being vegan? Right? Like, have you ever considered moving to another town somewhere where you can get another job?
I mean, yeah, I've thought about it, but it's like, well, my family also lives here, so like I do not want to leave them either.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's understandable. Have you really searched around your town? Keep putting in applications at other places, like.
I've been thinking about like switching into what's it called? Actually, like just working for like not for like another slaughterhouse or company that sends animals to slaughter, but just to like handle animals and like just properly raise animals, like horses or sheep, something that like they'll just be like sheared for wool, nothing like where they'll be slaughtered.
Do you think that we should be using sheep for wool?
Somewhat. I mean, wool saved a lot of people's lives in mountaineering and exploring.
Yeah, but what about the sheep though? Like, people have other alternatives to those things. Like, they don't have to use wool.
Well, I mean, you can say that to a degree, but there's nothing better than wool when it comes to being out in the wilderness and getting wet, where wool will still keep you warm and freezing to death.
That's not true. That's just something that the industry wants you to believe. That's what everybody says about all these different products. Like, there's nothing better than eating animal protein. There's nothing better than leather for certain things. There's nothing better than wool for certain things. It's all marketing.
But to be fair, I don't really use wool, to be quite fair. I really just use cotton or like...
Right.
Or like... Well, to be quite fair, I don't like the feeling of wool, but...
Sure.
To be quite fair, I would rather work in an area where like I don't just have to like worry about like an animal that just has to get killed or anything like that.
Yeah, so you're thinking about yourself in these situations. You got to think about the animals. Like, these sheep that are used for wool are selectively bred to produce more wool, and they have issues because of that, right? And then in some of the larger like sheep farms, do you know how they like clean them or like give it like put medicine under their wool? They
like I've seen like when they clean them. I know that like they'll dunk them. Okay, I don't really know that much about like sheep.
So smaller,
like when it comes to like them being taken care of that way.
Smaller farms, they actually get hands on and they like dunk them underwater. You know, like that has like a solution that's just like, you know, a mixture of different things to like get soaked into their wool. But bigger farms, they have so many sheep, they can't get hands on with every single one. So they have these trenches and they like force them in one side and they like run underneath and like they have to like kind of swim through this trench. And a lot of them actually struggle and some drown in these trenches. They literally drown, and it's just like yeah, they don't
I've
even
seen that,
you know
like online, but like I said, I don't work with sheep specifically.
Yeah.
But I'm like I said, like I'm certified to work with all kinds of livestock, not just like slaughter animals.
Yeah. You said pigs there. Is it a gas chamber?
Yes, it is. Our machine is specifically called the Butina. It is a CO2 chamber made in Denmark.
Yeah. They're horrible, aren't they? You ever actually seen the pigs in there?
Yeah. When I get sent, if I ever choose to do overtime, I usually get sent to that section.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty horrible, isn't it?
I'm not gonna lie. That machine honestly does scare me somewhat.
Yeah, you would never want to be inside there, right?
Yeah, no, like that's why it honestly does scare me. I'm like, there's like you will not survive if you fall in.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of signage telling you, be careful, you will die.
Yeah. Yeah, I think. Have you ever seen that documentary Pignorant?
What's it called?
It's called Pignorant. It's on Amazon Video.
No, I have not actually.
Yeah, it's if you have an Amazon Prime Video, you can go watch that documentary. It's undercover footage of a pig slaughterhouse, just like the one you work in.
Do you know what slaughterhouse specifically was like recorded?
It was in the UK, I believe. I'm pretty sure it's not even there anymore. It was Joey Carbstrong that did the investigation. You can go follow his YouTube channel. He does a lot of other investigations that you can see on his YouTube channel that are totally free. There's also an investigation he did called Hogwashed. Yeah, it was a farm, a pig farm before they go to the slaughterhouse, and it was actually a farmer that like won all these awards and things like that. And then meanwhile at the farm he was like abusing the pigs. And yeah, so I think that's free on the YouTube channel. Go check him out, Joey Carbstrong.
Yeah, like here's the thing is like I know that my work has a bunch of definitely doesn't propagandize to like a bit to like desensitize from animal cruelty to some degree. Because the slaughterhouse I work at is actually made up of some of the biggest hog farmers in the country. Like they all join together to make a plan specifically.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. All these animals at all the different farms, they all end up in the same slaughterhouses. That's like the reality of it.
And I've seen these animals, and like I can tell if they're treated good or bad based on their condition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When they immediately come in.
I go to a turkey slaughterhouse near me, and to show some of the victims that are going in there. I was just there the other day, and there was a trail of blood going into the slaughterhouse. Like there were injured, bleeding turkeys in the little cages before they even went into the slaughterhouse. They were injured, and it's not the first time I've seen that. I've been there a couple dozen times, and on multiple occasions I've seen turkeys bleeding out going into the slaughterhouse. Like it's horrific.
Like where I work, like they will jam pack animals into a livestock trailer, and like and like they will just jam pack a bunch of pigs in there, and some will suffocate and die from like how just jam packed they are.
Yeah, that's pretty horrible, right? So like, let's say you're still working at the slaughterhouse. What's stopping you from going vegan besides your work, right? Like, as you're trying to find another job, you're putting in applications other places. You're considering maybe moving out of town, move to the next town over. You're not far away from your family, but you can get another job there. Like, why are you not vegan? Like, with all the other choices that you can make right now.
I just never found it to really be my thing. I here's the thing, I got no problem with ever trying being vegan for a while, but I just don't think I can do it for permanently.
But why though? Like, it's the hardest part is the first 21 days. That's why we created this 21-day reflection period. You can really think about your relationship with animals. You can learn why you should be vegan, how to be vegan, and what you can do to help the animals. It takes 21 days to change your habits. That's the hardest part. The hardest part for me when I went vegan was going into the grocery store and finding all the vegan. Right after I did that, my grocery store rearranged the whole store, so I literally had to go back in there and find everything else all over again. It was a pain, but like that was honestly, looking back, like that was the hardest thing for me. Was just like finding the stuff in the grocery store, and honestly, it only took like a couple hours. So it's
I don't doubt that, but the other thing too is just like the pay is it's just how much we get paid.
Yeah, I mean,
it's one of the other reasons I just don't.
I save money. Right. I save money as a vegan. Like I don't go to zoos or aquariums or anything like that. I don't buy leather or wool. Like those are generally expensive. There's other alternatives that are cheaper. And then when you're buying like animal like proteins or whatever, you're buying the flesh of animals. That's generally more expensive than buying, soy curls and tofu and different other sources. Sometimes I'll get the like I got some plant-based like chicken nuggets. They were on sale, so when I see things like that are on sale, I'll get them every once in a while.
I actually have tried plant-based chicken nuggets. They were actually pretty good.
Yeah.
It's actually one of those things I would not mind switching out. I don't really like chicken to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't like. Here's the thing. I don't really eat. I only eat specific animal products. I don't really eat.
Yeah.
All of them. I don't like eating pork in general or chicken or most animals. I really only like beef.
Yeah, try to switch out the words that you're using for the actual animal, right? We call them different things like beef and pork to disconnect us from the actual victims. So, we have all the alternatives. We have, it sounds like you're open to trying other things. Try different brands. Like you said, you like the plant-based chicken nuggets. Sometimes you'll get a different alternative and you'll try it and you'll be like, this kind of tastes weird, this isn't good, whatever, you don't like the taste of that, try a different brand. Like it happens with the cheeses, the plant-based cheeses. Some brands I don't like, some brands I really do like, so I had to try a couple different ones, and you'll find what you like. But that little bit of change and learning new things, it's nothing compared to what these animals are going through.
I would say at my job, I would say I try my best not to be as inhumane as possible, even though it's completely inhumane.
Yeah.
I try my hardest to be as gentle as I can with the animals, but that's still hard to do.
Right.
Not I'm trying to hit them or be hard with them. It's so I'm not sure if you know the style of how large groups of animals are moved, about 150 head of pigs are moved.
Yeah, do you want to explain it? I obviously I don't have experience doing anything like that.
So what we have is called a rattle paddle. It is a plastic paddle that is hollowed on the inside with a bunch of BBs.
Yeah.
And when you shake it, it's supposed to mimic the sound of a rattlesnake.
Mm-hmm.
And it scares the pigs off. Some of the handlers will, they'll tap the ground or tap the walls before they have to tap on an animal themselves. That's what I try to do.
Yeah. Yeah, but
Some
sometimes
of the animals themselves are, how do I put it, just very stubborn.
Yeah, they know what's gonna happen.
It's they're just not afraid of it at all because, pigs are known for being very smart, and some of them are just smart enough to understand.
Yeah, it's it's pretty horrible. Yeah, and then you end up, sometimes people end up hitting them with it, right? That's what you were gonna say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to tap them to get them to move. I don't try to tap them hard. I'll give a pat. They don't move. I'll go with my hand. I'll tap them on the sides. See if I can get them to move.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, you would agree that it's all that's unnecessary. We could just be taking care of these animals, letting them live their lives, and you could just be choosing other products. You would be you'd be a good advocate for the animals.
If I can get paid and still do my livestock handling career, and I just get to just take care of these animals, let them do their things, just feed them, take care of them, I would be glad with that. I'll be happy doing a job like that.
Yeah, try to get a job at a sanctuary. That's what they do. You should follow this other content creator. He's on TikTok, but he's also on YouTube. He does a lot of live streams on YouTube. He's his name is the 40-year-old vegan, and he used to work in the animal agriculture industry. So he's kind of, he's been in a lot of slaughterhouses. He's seen a lot of the things that you've seen, or very similar things. And now he's been vegan for a long time, and he's an animal advocate. So I think you guys would kind of relate to each other. You should reach out, talk to him, and go follow his YouTube.
Since he's worked in that industry, he would probably understand just how dirty it could really be.
Oh yeah.
Dirty industry. I'm only 19, and my other two coworkers are 19 and 20.
Yeah.
And it's I realize just how desensitized we are at it, but everyone there is trained in euthanasia on livestock.
Yeah.
Because I said, they jam-pack these animals terribly into trailers. Animals will come in with broken legs, or their backs will be broken. And it's a sad thing to see when they come in like that.
I can't really imagine working at a place like that and being trained on how to euthanize animals. That's got to be really sad. Yeah, definitely try to find another job. You can do it. There's jobs out there. It might take a little bit of time, but try to do the Animal Justice 21 challenge. There's a chat there. You can reach out to other people. Go follow the 40-year-old vegan, and you give me a follow. Come back another time. I'd like to talk to you again.
Yeah, of course.
All right, we're gonna move on to somebody else. I only got a little bit more time, so I want to try to get one or two more conversations in. Keith, do you want to say anything to him? What was your name again?
My name?
Yeah, do you want to tell me your name, your first name?
Victor.
Victor. Okay. Yeah, it was nice to meet you, Victor.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah, the only thing I was gonna add is just it's been well understood, right, that we want to do our best as moral individuals to not let monetary gain outweigh our principles. This has been, you can look up old quotes from Abraham Lincoln, right, on this topic in and of itself, when the topic at the time would have been slavery, where people were trying to justify these actions that they were doing by saying, oh well, it's traditional, or it's profitable, or it's convenient. That was, you can look up the verbatim statement he gave, I think it was a State of the Union address, where he stated that, in times of moral crisis, we can't let our principles be outweighed by things like, convenience and pleasure and profitability and things like this. So, if we think that it's wrong to do something, we shouldn't allow the ability to still make money off of those individuals being exploited as a good reason to keep doing it. So, you know, I would just sit with that reasoning and think on it a little bit more.
Awesome, thank you. All right, Victor, I'll talk to you another time.
Yep.
Well said, Keith.
Well said, Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah. Yeah, so I go to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and I do street outreach out there, and I actually stand right across from where Abraham Lincoln spent the night before giving the Gettysburg Address. There's a lot of history there. It's pretty cool. Yeah, so sometimes I'll go there and I'll talk about human slavery and animal slavery, and it's I think it's a really cool place to do outreach. All right, there's two people that are requesting to come up that were here yesterday, and now he's not here, I guess. Oh, no, here he is.
Yo.
How are you doing?
Yo, I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
Good. Are we going to talk about something besides nutrition today?
If you want, yeah, sure.
So have you looked into the Animal Justice 21 at all, or other research?
No, not really, actually. No, not really.
Did you look up the vegan gym? I think you're the guy I talked to that I recommended looking up the vegan gym on YouTube.
Yeah, you did. No, I didn't look at that either.
Well, go check it out. Go check it out right now, and then come back tomorrow, because I'll probably try to do another stream tomorrow. But I want to have somebody else come up. Unless you got anything else to say, go check out those resources, and then I want to hear back from you again. Okay?
Wait, do you want to ask me like questions though, or whatever, like about like, you know, stuff other than nutrition? Like, do you want to talk or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, real quick, like, why? Like, I mean, I'm just gonna ask you the same questions I did yesterday. Like, why aren't you vegan? Yesterday, you just kept talking about nutrition. So, like, yeah. What about other aspects? Are you vegan in other aspects of your life? Like, do you consider what you're purchasing and where it's coming from?
Well, I don't really purchase like too much stuff, and when I do, I'm not like thinking too much in it. But like, I only mention that because that is kind of like my main reason, just because of nutrition, you know.
Right. Yeah, so I mean, like, do a little bit of research yourself. Like, I'm not here to like convince people to go vegan. I'm just here to ask people why they're not vegan and kind of prompt them to go do the research themselves. Right? Does that make sense?
Sure. I mean, hypothetically, Box, like, assuming you could be just as healthy and thrive on a fully plant-based diet, is that now something that you would strive to do?
If I could be like fully optimal, healthy, you know, get all my nutrients from plants, then sure, yeah.
Okay, then that means that you fundamentally agree with the sentiment. It's just maybe a knowledge gap, and that's why he gave you those resources, is just to look into that.
Well, maybe it is a knowledge gap. Could you guys like tell me some stuff, you know?
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, if you're like concerned about getting nutrients, it's been well documented and understood for a long time now that, yeah, we can do this on like a fully vegan, dietary pattern, right? You can look at the position paper from the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, the largest body of dietetic researchers on the planet. Their position paper states that a well-planned plant-based diet is adequate at all stages of the human life cycle, from infancy to later adulthood and everywhere between, including pregnant persons and for athletes, meaning not only the capacity to survive, but also to thrive. So, you know, that sentiment exists, and that's comprised of close to 117 research papers. That position paper, many of which are meta-analysis and systematic review, which are the kinds of studies that sit at the pinnacle of the hierarchy of scientific evidence. So, like, if you were wanting to, like, be certain that we understand we can be healthy and thrive on a plant-based diet, the greatest minds in the realm of like dietetic research have already kind of done this for us to analyze that topic, and it's also supported by the British Dietetic Association, the Canadian, the Mexican, Australian, many others all support the exact same statement.
So like, is it just like their opinion, or do they actually like have reasons for that?
Yeah, it's based on, again, 117 plus research papers is what makes up that position paper.
Yeah, so like, I don't know, it just like seems like a little weird, because like you have to get all these nutrients that like aren't found in plants, and then you also have to deal with the anti-nutrients in vegetables, that can be pretty harmful.
Yeah, I mean, anti-nutrients was something that was proposed as like a problem, but most of the anti-nutrients in question, like lectins and phytates and things like this, typically are cooked out. Like, for example, in beans, like most of like the dangerous levels of these things are in the state of like if you ate uncooked beans. But the action of multiple things, like the action of sprouting, the action of soaking, the action of cooking, the action of fermenting, all four of those things, which are how we would advise someone eat beans, basically negate all of those negative aspects that you're referring to.
So you wouldn't recommend to eat a raw vegetable, right?
Depends on the vegetable. Some vegetables you can eat raw and are advised to be eaten raw. Other ones, no.
Like, what do you think about spinach?
Spinach can be high in oxalates, but that's, only going to be dangerous if you're doing absurd consumption ratios, like where you're just eating, bunches and bunches of spinach every single day. Like, you don't need to be eating spinach every single day. You can eat other things.
Yeah, I don't know. It just seems a bit problematic, because you have to do all these things. Like, you have to cook quite a bit out of it. You have to ferment it to avoid these oxalates, and you're also going to have to. You're also going to be
ferment, because most foods that most people on plant-based diets are eating are not fermented. I'm just saying that's one of the options. But cooking, right? Simply cooking your meal, right? Cooking the beans that you're going to consume negates the vast majority of the concerns that get brought up by quote-unquote anti-nutrients.
Yeah,
if it was the case that anti-nutrients in legumes were so problematic, it wouldn't be the case that I can go pull up the study, in a moment here if you really want it, but there's a study where it's basically found that one of the greatest, just straight up the greatest dietary predictor of longevity is legume consumption. So if eating legumes with all these quote-unquote anti-nutrients was just destroying the human body, it wouldn't be the greatest signaler of human longevity.
Yeah, but no one eats
dietarily speaking.
No one eats raw beans. No one eats raw beans, though.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's the whole point.
Yeah, exactly.
When you bring up anti-nutrients, most of those claims come from it's in its uncooked state that it could be dangerous.
Yeah, but the whole point is that you need to cook it, you need to put it in these sauces and seasonings. Just because you're not supposed to eat vegetables as a human,
Wait, what's the argument that humans aren't supposed to? Why do we have amylase?
Well, if you look at the digestive tract of an actual herbivore, they have a whole bunch of these, gut line, I don't know the exact word for it, but they take a while to digest these things because of fiber fermentation, and we don't have the cellulose.
That's because we cook our food.
Yeah, and that's my whole point. You need to cook it because you're not supposed to eat it naturally.
That means that human evolution persisted on the concept of cooking, not just eating everything raw. We can eat many vegetables raw and be fine. Many fruits raw and be fine. Many foods in general can be consumed raw and be fine. But the particular ones that you're bringing up as a concern, where if you were to eat them raw, the animal would require a hind gut is the term that you're seeking. You would need a hind gut, a meaningful hind gut to meaningfully ferment in the gut and then digest those fibers, or harder digest plant matters or whatever. But humans don't need to do that because we invented cooking, and that's been a part of our evolution and biology and the changes of our stomach co-align with that. So like avoiding cooking food is ridiculous.
Well, I wouldn't say it's ridiculous in this scenario because you're dealing with a ton.
Why is it ridiculous?
We just
agreed
though.
Like you're
We
just
just
like
agreed that you need to cook spinach. Like you need to avoid these oxalates by cooking them, right? So, like,
Just
how
don't
could
eat
you say
spinach
cook?
then.
you can have some raw spinach. Again, my claim wasn't that you need to avoid spinach ad nauseum. The point would be don't go absolutely bonkers with your spinach consumption.
Yeah, you'd have to eat like pounds of spinach to have like some bad side effects from it. So just don't eat a lot of it, or just don't eat it at all if that's something that is bothering you or you're worried about. There's other things you can eat. So we're gonna move on. Do some of this research yourself. You can find this stuff yourself. But I'm gonna bring up the next guy.
See ya.
Thanks. I don't have too much longer. Spy, you were here yesterday.
What up? What up? I am back.
What's up? Did you look into some of the resources that I gave you, animal justice or other things?
No, I got kicked before I got any resources.
Right. So what did you say to get you kicked then? I don't remember our conversation.
No, one of the people below me, it wasn't him, but last night,
Yeah.
asked me a question related to slavery.
Right.
And I got kicked after I tried to answer it.
You agree slavery is wrong, right?
Yeah, and that's what I said, and she just kept going like, that's not what I asked.
Okay. So why aren't you vegan?
No, I got a separate question just real quick. Is this like your job or something? Because I see you like live like almost 24/7.
I was only live for a couple hours yesterday. I've been live for a couple hours today. I have to end soon and go work. No, this is not
Fair
my
enough.
job. You can pay me though if you want to. I'd appreciate it. Send me some gifts.
Alright.
I run a nonprofit you can donate to if you want to.
Oh, cool. Where are you based out of?
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania.
So Animal Justice 21 is part of the nonprofit.
What do you guys do?
Give a voice to the voiceless animals.
No, but like for a nonprofit, what do you take that money and donate it to? Where? What do you work for? Do you just work on publicizing, like?
Yeah, we're trying to help other
Fantastic.
activists get out in person and talk to other people. There's a couple different projects. One of them is feeding food insecure people healthy plant-based options and explaining to them why we should be vegan. Yeah, and the Animal Justice 21 site also explaining why we should be vegan and giving out the education and the resources that some people are looking for. So.
What's your yearly revenue? Or how much do you take in? How much do you spend?
We just
I know it's a
started.
nonprofit, so you have to break even.
Yeah,
So,
we just started. It's only been around for a few months now, so it's new and it's growing. But yeah, one of the other things that I'm doing with that money is going and doing the 200-mile march against animal testing. You can go see the site. It's marchforanimals.org. So I'm going to be leading the team, walking 200 miles across New York from Albany to Marshall Bioresources, where they breed the most animals in the country for animal testing. And
what animals do they breed?
a lot. I think they have like over 60,000 animals there. A lot of dogs. It's like over 20,000 dogs, like 10,000 cats, and they breed a lot of ferrets, and they even have like some primates and they're like a lot of animals, a lot of hamsters, and
And what is the reason for animal testing?
they supply different industries and corporations all over the world, really, for
Like for medical, like to
yeah,
test medical vaccines.
from things that people think are more important, like medicine, to like things that are just completely ridiculous. Like it's
What's
everything.
a completely ridiculous category?
Like other cleaning products, like harsh chemicals and things that we already know these things are not good, and they're just they like literally do horrible things to these animals. So like basically the worst things you can think of, whatever's the worst thing you can possibly think of to do to an animal is probably happening to an animal right now, and you might be supporting that.
I just think animal testing for medicine is important.
Yeah, so like we have other options now, like we were talking about earlier, like organoids, organs on chips. This is one industry that AI can really make a big difference. We can use AI and different models to test things on instead of using these animals, and it's actually a lot cheaper now, and it can just get more and more efficient. So really, testing on animals is going to be obsolete at some point pretty soon. When you buy products that try to get cruelty-free products, right? Look for the little bunny logo on products. You know that they weren't tested on animals, and try to get vegan products. Does that kind of aligns with how you feel?
No, not really.
No, so you don't really care about testing things on animals? Like, I'm talking about other products that aren't medicine.
I'm more like I feel like more that humanity needs to be put first over other animals and such.
Yeah, I'm talking about other things that's not medicine. That's not like it's not benefiting you at all. It's actually probably harming you and harming other animals.
To get a vaccine or to get something clean.
I'm not talking about medicine. I'm talking about other products, like your shampoo, like bath products, beauty products for women, cosmetics and things like that. And anything really. Like you can get vegan toilet paper. You know what I mean? Like there's everything that you consume, anything that you purchase. If there's an option to get a vegan product or a cruelty-free product, and then there's a product that's tested on animals or uses animals and exploits them in any certain way, like why would you not choose the vegan and the cruelty-free stuff?
I'd choose based off price.
Do you think a little difference in price is more valuable than an animal's life?
What animal? It depends on what animal.
I mean, any animal.
Probably say yeah.
Yeah, what? That money, it matters more? Like literally like a couple of pennies, a couple of dollars matters more than an animal's life?
After a certain while it adds up to be a lot of money. It's like cigarettes.
It all balances out. You probably can save a lot of money actually by being vegan and choosing vegan options instead. There might be some things that are more expensive, some things that are less expensive, but it all evens out. You probably will save a little bit of money overall.
Alrighty. I'll talk to you guys later.
Yeah, just be a little bit more conscious on what you consume. Check out the Animal Justice 21 resource and come back another time. You do one more real quick. Do you want to add anything to that, Keith?
Yeah, I mean it is always kind of sad when it's like, okay, it's like maybe a couple more dollars, like even in a scenario where it might cost you a couple more dollars for this particular meal. One, that doesn't mean that like all your meals might cost more. On average, you're probably saving in the long run. But yeah, I mean, even if you ended up spending, I don't know, like we can even say like, $500 more in a year.
Yeah.
I think that's like well worth like not participating in the exploitation of sentient beings for essentially a trivial taste pleasure at that point, or just mild inconvenience.
Yeah, exactly.
We're talking about like $1 to $2 a day or something like that.
Yeah, that's like it's basically nothing. Like when you compare it to what the animals are going through, like it's literally nothing. I just want to add, I don't make any money from the nonprofit either. Like that, it's just something that I do as a job. I'm actually a dog educator, and I work in companion care. That's my job, and I work managing a couple of short-term rentals. So I do a couple of things, but yeah, the nonprofit takes up a lot of my time. That's I consider that my most important job, even though like I said, I don't make any money from that at all. You have a pet. I didn't buy a pet to have a pet, right? I rescued these animals. I have a little dog rescue, a little home dog rescue.
I don't think people, when they say that, they don't understand that, like, rescuing an animal and, like, being opposed to rescuing an animal would be akin to someone being opposed to you adopting a child.
Right. Like if you have the means to help an animal that's at risk of being euthanized in a shelter for just overcrowding, literally no reason, except they just don't have the room. There's just too many animals. If you have the means, I feel like if you have the means to help these animals, that we almost have an obligation to help these animals. So yeah, I spend too much money rescuing these dogs. I have like a dozen dogs here, and I need to rehome some of them soon. All right, this person's here.
Hello.
You're an adult, right? You have to stay in the app. There
Yes, I am.
Have you ever thought about being vegan?
Yeah, I have considered it. I actually have been vegan before, but dietarily vegan, not ethically vegan ever.
Right. So you were following a plant-based diet. There's a difference between just following a plant-based diet and being vegan.
Right. Yeah, I understand your semantics, but
Right,
so I had a plant-based diet.
Mhm.
I've never been ethically vegan. I've never believed in the sort of philosophy behind that stance.
Yeah, it's an ethical principle. Why were you following a plant-based diet? Was it for your health?
Yeah, I wanted to try it out for more dietary purposes.
Right. Right. So your health is a journey, right? Some people say like veganism is a journey or whatever. That's like BS. Your health is a journey. That's something that changes. Some things related to your health slowly change over time, right? But aligning your actions with the ethical principle to reject animal exploitation, that is something that you can do like right now. You can do that overnight. So like what's actually stopping you from being vegan? Because it sounds like you have a little bit of experience with the plant-based diet, which can be super helpful. But like what's stopping you from actually like respecting animals with all your choices?
Well, I don't think I disrespect animals necessarily. I'd push back on that idea a little bit.
Even when you're paying for their exploitation?
I don't think it's immoral to unnecessarily eat an animal, no more than it's immoral for like a lion to unnecessarily eat another animal.
You're not a lion. You should know better. So like if you were in the animal's position, right, somebody was exploiting you for something that they don't need, how would that be respectful? How is that ever respectful?
Well, I'm not a lion. I don't think there's a relevant difference between humans and non-human animals with this respect. So that's my point. I don't see why a lion is obligated not to eat unnecessarily any more than I would be, like you're claiming. So I don't think there's any strong reason to believe that. I don't think a vegan ever really gives reason for that. The rhetoric usually revolves around questioning the meat eater and avoiding, justifying their own beliefs.
Because that's
So
what veganism is. Veganism is about human exploitation of other animals. It's not about what a lion eats. I don't think lions should eat other animals either. But that's not what we're here to talk about. Does that make sense?
Okay. I do want to clarify something. You do think it's immoral, for example, for a lion to unnecessarily eat another animal?
It's horrible. Yeah, of course. What happens in nature is horrible. That's why we've removed ourselves from nature. That's why I'm in a house. That's why I'm on using my phone. I'm on the internet. I have air conditioning going. Like,
right. I guess I don't know what coherent concept of wrongness you could be applying there. That's probably the issue, right?
You have to think about the victims.
Under your world.
You have to think about the victims. It's not like my perspective and your perspective. It's about the victim's perspective, right?
But we don't just have to think about anything. There needs to be reasons behind your beliefs, assumedly, right? So what are the reasons why you think it is a belief? You believe it's wrong to eat animals unnecessarily. That's your belief.
The animals that you eat think it's wrong.
Okay, do you think it follows that because I think something is wrong or I don't want something to happen, that another creature has an obligation to respect those interests of mine?
So yeah, so like this is like the whole, like you said, like, and all the vegans do is like question the meat eater. That's the whole, like, it's a critique of the person that we bring up to see why they're not vegan. So like, are you in favor of someone needlessly oppressing and exploiting a dog for like smell pleasure? Like they just like the smell of something that they obtain from the dog, and to get it, they needlessly oppress and exploit that.
No,
dog.
I'm not in favor of eating meat. I don't think you have any obligation, or it doesn't matter to me what you eat. What I'm saying is the vegan argument doesn't make sense. No.
You're just here to debate.
If you're not in favor of needlessly oppressing and exploiting a dog for a smell pleasure, then what justifies it for a taste pleasure?
Well, so you're conflating. Just listen carefully to what I'm saying. So being in favor of something means you want that thing to happen. I don't want people to eat meat. I don't care if you eat meat or not. What I'm focused on is analyzing the reasoning that vegans employ for their arguments to see if it's sound or if it's even valid. What I'm saying is that the idea you have an obligation not to eat non-human animals doesn't make sense.
Well, it's not a simpliciter. It's not you're simpliciting like, oh, it's just don't do it ever. The statement is to avoid the needless oppression, and it's also not just like eating meat. Again, it's an overall statement to avoid exploitation and oppression of sentient beings as far as is possible and practicable, right? So like to the same extent, if I have an avenue to avoid setting a dog on fire for fun, I should avoid that, right?
So even, yeah, I mean,
just real quick,
I'm not,
should someone set
I'm allowed to respond to you, please.
But
So
no,
I
just want to
I'm not
answer
allowed to
that
respond
question.
to you.
Are
Well,
you
I know you
answering
don't
that
want me
question?
to respond to you. You just want me to answer a yes or no question, and you want to frame off that. But I'd like to have the same respect I'm giving you and be able to answer
the
the
importance of that question. Dodging that question.
I'm not
is
dodging the
problematic.
question. I just like to respond to your previous statement. You gave a statement before the question, right? I don't want you to run away from that statement. I want to address it, and then I'll respond to your question. So the idea that you have an obligation to not unnecessarily eat or commodify another creature, that is also not justified. No vegan has ever given an explanation for that. Not even Peter Singer, Nussbaum, no vegan philosopher has ever even provided evidence for that claim. So no, I don't think it makes sense to say you have some inherent obligation not to cause pain or to frustrate the interests of another creature, right? I think obligations arise from principles, right? So you have to establish a principle, establish a reason behind this sort of obligation, not just grant it. So it doesn't matter if it's a dog, right? Vegans try to use dogs as examples because those are the non-human creatures we're most closely tied to. Or a cow. You notice you never use bugs, right? Or
Yeah,
fish,
I would also apply
right?
to bugs too.
Well, it would, right? But I'm just
They don't
pointing
have
out how
fur.
you don't use
They
those
don't have
examples.
fur, so that they're not really typically animals that would ever be quote unquote lit on fire.
Oh, I mean, it doesn't matter if it's an analogy that's using lit on fire or what. The point I'm making is that the animals you use in your hypotheticals are always animals we already, have a cultural empathy for, usually, right? It's sneaky. It's a sneaky rhetorical tactic.
It's not
but anyway, provided what I said.
The whole point is to just answer that question. Should someone light dogs on fire for fun?
Again, I don't think anyone should do anything. I'm not making an argument you should eat meat. I'm making an argument that...
Okay, then you're impossible. I'm asking for your opinion personally. Do you think you should be setting dogs on fire for fun? You.
No, again, I told you this multiple times, Keith. I'm not making a positive claim that you should or need to do anything. What I'm attacking is the idea you have an obligation.
Okay, so then there's no reason to avoid the oppression and exploitation of humans either? You shouldn't do anything of any qualitative...
That doesn't follow at all from what I just said.
You just said there could be many reasons. You shouldn't be obligated to do anything is what you just said.
That's not what I said. I said I am not making an argument that you have an obligation to do anything. I am responding to your vegan argument that you have an obligation not to unnecessarily eat or commodify non-human creatures.
Right, but the testing of these principles would fall in a line with the same kind of reasoning as to why it's wrong to oppress a human. So do you think it's okay to oppress a human for needless reasons?
Okay, why do you think it's wrong then to oppress a human? Can you explain that?
Yeah, because they can go through valent states. They can be either a positive, a negative, or a neutral state. Putting them through negative states for my amusement, my enjoyment is problematic because they're going through a negative experience for something that's trivial. I don't think that my trivial interest should outweigh the vital interests of someone else. I think that's wildly problematic. Because I would never want that onus put on me. I would never want someone to come up to me and needlessly start, jabbing me in the neck with something sharp for their own amusement.
Yeah, so that sort of theory doesn't really make sense at all if you apply it to how we see people act day to day, right? And I'll just give you an example to demonstrate that, right? So the idea that frustrating someone's interests or even, giving someone a negative state is inherently wrong is obviously false. We violate people's interests all the time, day to day. And think of this, for example. If there's a pedophile or there's some otherwise insane person who has an insane interest, we will happily disregard this interest. We'll happily cause suffering on them, right? Because interest...
process, dude. Their interest in and of itself frustrates the interests of others.
That's great, but what you're demonstrating here is that it is not inherently wrong to frustrate an interest. Now you care about some interests, you care about interests over others.
You're just intentionally being facetious, dude, at this point.
I'm not being
You understand I'm not saying like a simpliciter statement. It's an overall sentiment that obviously someone coming up and do you agree that most people would understand that stabbing someone in the neck for their own amusement when that person is being peaceful otherwise and doing nothing wrong is problematic?
I would say so, but not for the reasons you give.
So
I think there are much easier reasons to explain that sort of behavior.
What are the reasons you would give?
Let's talk one at a time and we'll find out. So I think it's the case, and I think this is a much better explanation of reality, that we have interests, mutual interests with other humans, like to have shelter, to have community, to reproduce. And it is conducive to those interests that we do not harm each other in those sort of ways, right? And it would make sense now why we don't treat non-human animals the same way, because we don't have the same mutual interests with them. It's irrelevant. How I treat a fish, I'm not speaking. It's irrelevant, for example, a fish's treatment to those interests. Now, a person in the woods, I know what you're about to ask. It's still going to be the case that I think there are many interests you would be following in treating a person in the woods properly. It's not going to be conducive to your interests even to harm somebody in the woods, right? Unless maybe you are a psychopath and you have that desire, and there are people like this, right? So this is still just evidence for my view.
Okay, that's the whole point of that question. Is it okay for someone to go up to some hermit in the woods and just start stabbing them in the neck for their own amusement? Is that just okay to ignore that victim? And
it's not okay based on the
okay, great.
primary standard of
people happening to society in that scenario.
Sorry?
The dude living as a hermit in the woods isn't going to help society in the slightest in this hypothetical. So
Okay,
that's out the window.
No,
It's still
so
wrong to do, apparently.
well, I'm not saying anything is objectively wrong. I'm saying wrongness
Yeah, no
stems.
shit, dude. I'm not
Hold on,
making that
Keith.
statement.
Just relax. I'm not finished. I don't know why you
All
keep
right,
interrupting me.
just say like one or two more things,
So
and then
bad
I gotta
faith,
end.
dude. You've
All right,
come up
I'm
on
not-
like 80 bajillion fucking
I'm not
vegan
the one-
lives,
I'm not
and
the
you
one
do this shit
interrupting.
every single time. Every single time you come up on a vegan live, you run the same boring argument, and it never addresses the victim.
It's
It
right.
always
So
runs-
boring
it
that you have
always
to
runs around
interrupt
beating
and
the
get
dude.
emotional. Yeah.
No, this is why. It's because it always devolves into the same shit, and it goes nowhere. You're not progressing the conversation in any meaningful avenue.
Yes, I am. We're having a
No,
progressive
you're genuinely
conversation
not.
where you're tackling my
Because we
principles.
try
You just
to
claim
address
that,
why.
Keith, that's
No,
fine.
every time we try
You're not
to address
explaining
why
anything.
you're not vegan, every time we try to
boy.
address why you're personally not vegan, it turns to this sentiment of like, oh well, society surrounding me may not fall into the same alignment of my agreements within the blah blah. Like, dude, like we're trying to assess why you personally think it's justified for you to go out and needlessly oppress and exploit other sentient individuals for trivial interests. What is the justification for that?
Okay, so I'm just going to try to keep going from where we left off.
Oh my fucking God.
So, oh my God, yeah.
Oh my god, yeah. You can come back another time if you have anything constructive to actually say. But yeah, I have to go. So thanks for being here, everybody. If you're in the queue and you didn't get a chance to come up, just give me a follow. I'll probably be back tomorrow for a little while. Let me know that you were one of the people in the queue that didn't get to come up, and I will put you up ahead of other people. Thanks a lot, Keith. I really appreciate you being here today and helping with the conversations. I can really learn a lot from you. How long have you been vegan again?
About 10 years.
Yeah, and how long have you been like an activist and speaking up for the animals?
I mean, I've always been doing it online to like a certain extent, like more like, you know, just dialogues online via some kind of text messaging type stuff. So like I've done just dialogues with people online on like Facebook and Instagram and things like that for probably like, I don't know, 6 or 7 years. And I did a couple years of Challenge 22 as a mentor and things like that. But yeah, in terms of like, you know, TikTok, verbally speaking with individuals, I think it's almost like 2 years to the date now.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. I look forward to having you on in the future, and I'm definitely excited to learn a lot from you. I've seen you in other lives, and yeah, definitely appreciate it a lot.
Yeah, of course. All right. Well, have a great rest of your day, right?
Thanks, you too.
Yep, see ya.
All right. See you, everybody. I'll be back tomorrow. Nice. Okay. And YouTube. Marissa, how are you doing? Thanks for stopping in. KFC. Bro, somebody threw a bag, trash, one of the KFC bags of trash in my trash can. I walked by there earlier and I was like, what the fuck? Literally somebody just went to KFC here. It's ridiculous. KFC, I think KFC stands for kill fewer chickens. Chickens are great people. Go search that. Chickens are great people on YouTube. George Carlin is a comedian. He did a bit called Chickens Are Great People, and it's funny, and it's actually true. Other people talking about being gay and abortion. So what if I told you I'm not gay and I'm pro-life? Then would you be vegan? Or, you're just gonna continue to be a dumbass? See you, Ben. I'm signing off. I have to go work. People think I don't have a job. I have to go work. I'll be back tomorrow. See you.